Chapter 941. Back to a moment ago. Schwanger, schwanger. Yang Dingtian chased after the Naga Schwang as he called out to her. However, Naga Schwanger turned a deaf ear to his words. She flew faster and faster, faster and faster. As a result, if Yang Dingtian didn't use the demonic mist cloak's flash, he wouldn't be able to catch up to her. And behind them, the Mermaid Queen Violets was fighting the Queen Devil Queen and dozens of evil ways masters alone. Schwanger! Yang Dingtian shouted, desperately using the demonic mist cloak's flash to chase after the Naga Schwang. Then, he couldn't help but touch Schwanger's body. Ow! The Naga Schwang turned her head and opened her mouth at Yang Dingtian, about to bite him to death. Her eyes were still completely bloodshot, and she had no consciousness at all. She was still in a murderous state. Yang Dingtian was shocked. The current Schwang was unbelievably powerful. If she bit him, he would definitely die. Just as Schwang was about to bite Yang Dingtian, her huge body suddenly trembled. As if she had been electrocuted, her body turned from golden to blue. Then, a mouthful of blue-green blood spurted out from the corner of her mouth. This was a precautionary mechanism she had set up in the depths of her soul when she was sober. As long as she went crazy and wanted to bite Yang Dingtian, a mechanism deep in her body would be triggered, and she would severely harm herself to prevent her from hurting Yang Dingtian. Last time, she had bitten Yang Dingtian alive and scared herself. So, she set up this self-harm mechanism in the depths of her soul. Under this kind of self-harm, Naga Schwanger almost fell directly. Yang Dingtian's heart ached, but there was nothing he could do. He could only continue to follow, but he didn't dare to touch her at all. The Naga Schwang suddenly turned her head, her eyes bloodshot. She was warning Yang Dingtian not to follow her, or she wouldn't be polite. Quiet, quiet, let's be quiet. Yang Dingtian tried to comfort Schwang with a gentle voice. However, the Naga Schwang was getting more and more impatient. It was as if as long as there was a living thing around her, she would become extremely violent and filled with the desire to destroy. However, the precautionary mechanism deep in her soul prevented her from biting Yang Dingtian to death. Instantly, she flew into a rage. Ow! Then, she roared at Dingtian. Immediately, Yang Dingtian's body flew tens of thousands of meters away like a piece of paper. Then, Schwang's names, and Schwang Yang Dingtian's mouth was filled with fresh blood. He quickly endured the intense pain, and used the Devil Spirit Mist Cloak Flash Art to chase after him again. Ayo 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 ayo! Schwang suddenly let out a series of angry roars. In an instant Yang Dingtian's body felt as if it had been hit by a giant hammer. Blood spurted out, and there was no more celestial chi left. Schwang's Naga Schwang took the opportunity to fly away like a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, she had become a small golden dot. Yang Dingtian was burning with anxiety, but he couldn't stop her. Behind them, the Mermaid Queen Violet had already fallen into a huge crisis. She was being besieged by dozens of experts. Looking at Naga Schwang's shrinking figure, Yang Dingtian couldn't chase after her. If he continued to chase after her, the Berserk Naga would really hurt him. Before Schwanger completely calmed down and transformed into her human form, it would be useless for Yang Dingtian to chase after her. She didn't know him at all. Moreover, he couldn't sit by and watch the Mermaid Queen get hurt. Although Schwanger had flown away, she was still safe. As long as she wasn't in the Empire of Darkness, there was no one in the world who could hurt Schwanger. She's mine! She's mine! Yang Dingtian thought to himself. He looked at Naga's back as she disappeared into the sun. Schwanger, I don't know where you're going, but I'll definitely find you. Yang Dingtian thought to himself. Then, he suddenly turned around and flew towards the Mermaid Queen. Seeing Yang Dingtian return, the Mermaid Queen immediately asked, "What are you doing here?" Yang Dingtian replied, "To save you." The Mermaid Queen said disdainfully, "Can you save me?" Yang Dingtian held his Emperor-grade soul sword in his hand. "I'll try my best. I'll break the balance." "That's right. As long as he broke the balance of the evil ways, he could save the Mermaid Queen. But it was clear that Yang Dingtian's arrival had broken the balance. The Devil Queen ordered loudly, "Think of a way to capture Yang Dingtian!" "Yes!" all the evil ways experts shouted in unison. At this time, the Lord of the Netherworld Sea, Wu Yu, flew over and said slowly, "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, Queen Violets, I'd like to invite the two of you to the Netherworld Sea as guests." "How about it?" the Devil Queen said angrily. "Wu Yu, are you sure you want to become enemies with the Temple of Annihilation?" Wu Yu said. "I didn't say that. But I do want to invite Yang Dingtian and the Mermaid Queen to be guests." Then, Wu Yu flew into the Evil Ways formation and floated next to the Mermaid Queen. Another saint-level expert had entered. So, the battle stopped. If they fought again, the Evil Ways led by the Devil Queen wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. On the contrary, a few of her half-step saint-level experts would suffer. Of course, these people couldn't be killed because of their evil energy. But they could be imprisoned, right? The Mermaid Queen asked Yang Dingtian. "Where's Naga?" Yang Dingtian said. "She landed somewhere and is recovering her energy." Yang Dingtian then said to Wu Yu, "Sect Master Wu Yu, I'll have to trouble you to guard this place with us for about 4 hours. How about it?" Naga had already run away. Yang Dingtian was obviously lying. What he wanted to say was that Naga was still by his side. After 4 hours, Naga would recover part of her energy. At that time, it would be a joke for the Devil Queen to bring people to capture Naga. These Evil Ways experts added together wouldn't be enough to tear apart a single Naga. "The scenery here isn't bad. After flying for so long, we can take a break," Wu Yu said slowly. Then she, Yang Dingtian, and the Mermaid Queen sat down cross-legged and floated in the air, blocking the path of the Queen Devil Queen and the others. With 2 saint-level experts blocking their path, the Queen Devil Queen was at her wits' end. She could only float in place and couldn't continue chasing after Naga Shuang. The undead concubine looked at Yang Dingtian for a long time and said, "Yang Dingtian, perhaps you think you have Naga. But don't forget who's behind us. Queen Medusa, is it?" "The ruler of Naga," Yang Dingtian said. "But if I'm not wrong, she's also my mother-in-law," the Queen Devil Queen said. "We're all very clear about Queen Medusa's position. And even if you put on an act, I know that you've already lost control of Naga. Back in the Skirich Imperial capital, she almost bit you to death. So, she shouldn't have landed somewhere to recover her energy, but has completely disappeared. She doesn't belong to you anymore." Yang Dingtian was shocked. The Queen Devil Queen had guessed correctly. "Ridiculous, ridiculous." Yang Dingtian laughed. "That's right, Schwanger did almost bite me back in the Skirich Imperial capital. That's because she went berserk and lost her mind. But as long as she completely digests the evil origin energy, she'll gradually wake up and take human form. At that time, she'll return to being that kind and lovely Duga Aoshuang, my little wife." The Queen Devil Queen's eyes twitched. "Is that so? Whether or not Naga is still by your side, we'll know once we try. Let the Legion of Doom enter the human kingdoms, and we'll be able to expose your lies." "Is that so?" Yang Dingtian said. "Then I welcome your Legion of Doom to death. We all know that the Dark Citadel is inseparable from the Empire of Darkness, so if the Legion of Doom enters the human kingdoms, they'll completely lose their energy cycle. Once they die, they'll be dead forever." The Queen Devil Queen took a deep breath. "That's right, the truth is out, the truth is out." Then either side spoke again. 4 hours later, Evil Ways could no longer catch up to Naga Shuang. Yang Dingtian bowed to the Queen Devil Queen and said, "Your Majesty Devil Queen, then we'll take our leave." The Queen Devil Queen nodded and said, "Okay, please go back and prepare enough coffins and tombs. The letter of challenge of the World Extermination War will soon be sent to your Tiando League." Her words were very calm, but it was close to sounding the bell of the apocalypse. It was analyzed before whether the so-called Temple of Annihilation's wedding was a success or a failure. Whether the Evil Ways obtained the greater space technique or not, the world extermination war would definitely begin. Yang Dingtian was shocked, but his expression did not change at all. He bowed to the Devil Queen and said, "Good, welcome to death. Farewell." The Devil Queen said, "I won't see you off," Yang Dingtian said. Whoosh 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 whoosh. After that, the Demon Queen, undead concubine, led dozens of evil Dao experts and flew towards Sky Devil City. Yang Dingtian noticed that although they could rush out of the Empire of Darkness, they could not enter the Empire of Darkness from the Demon Realm. It seemed that the only entrance was in Sky Demon City's Shang Palace. There was also the Gate of Darkness in the world of ice and snow. After the Devil Queen left, Yang Dingtian said to Wu Yu, "Are you going to continue watching from the sidelines, or are you going to participate?" Wu Yu shrugged her shoulders and said, "Who knows?" Yang Dingtian said, "Then before everything is decided, can I trouble you with something? Guard the entrance to the human kingdom, right?" Wu Yu said. Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "We're already struggling to deal with the evil ways. If the saints and half-saints of Little Western Paradise come in, we won't be able to stop them." Wu Yu looked at Yang Dingtian and said, "You should know that the Great War is about to break out. The Legion of Doom is about to flood into the human kingdom, right?" Yang Dingtian nodded. Wu Yu said, "The human kingdom, even with the help of the Mermaid Empire, won't be able to stop the Legion of Doom. So, do you know what you should do right now?" Yang Dingtian said. "Please advise me." Wu Yu said. "The first choice is to find the Naga. This is the most important choice, and also the choice that will make us undefeatable." Yang Dingtian nodded. The scene in the Empire of Darkness was very clear. The Naga Shuang's slaughter of the Dark Wyverns and Dark Colossal Dragons was completely one-sided. In the Empire of Darkness, these Dark Colossal Dragons and Dark Wyverns could be resurrected. But in the human kingdom, they couldn't. They had to rely on the Shura Vulture's resurrection ability. So, if they wanted to stop the Legion of Doom, they had to find the Naga. Wu Yu continued, "Of course, if we can't find the Naga, then we'll have to do it. The second choice is to find a way to form an alliance with Little Western Paradise. With enough saints and half-saints, we can definitely suppress the evil ways and make the Legion of Doom lose its commander." Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "But forming an alliance with Little Western Paradise isn't as simple as finding the Naga, right?" Wu Yu nodded and said, "Yes, because the chairman of Little Western Paradise is Yong Shi Wentian, a part of the Demon King." Wu Yu took a deep breath and said, "But before that, let's prepare for war." Then Wu Yu flew away. Yang Dingtian was stunned and said, Where are you going?" Wu Yu said, "As you command, I'm going to guard the gate of the human kingdom. Empire of Darkness, Skirich Imperial Capital." Devil Queen bowed and said, "Sorry, Demon King, we failed." The Demon King Wentian's shadow leaned on the dark throne, sighed, and then nodded. The Demon King Wentian then said, "Piaoling, we only have half of the primordial evil spirit left. So, the first-class evil spirit we gave only has half of its will left." Devil Queen said, "There's no doubt about the loyalty of Dongli and Li Ming. Even without the first-class evil spirit, they will still be loyal to His Majesty. The only exception is Mu Dan. The suppression of her will by the evil spirit will weaken. Her own will resist even more fiercely." Devil Queen then said, "Naga Duga Aoshuang got half of the primordial evil spirit, so will there be such a result? Under the influence of the primordial evil spirit, her position will be the same as ours, and she will start to become enemies with the god of chaos?" The Demon King Wentian said, "You mean, will this Naga Duga Aoshuang become the king of evil ways?" Devil Queen nodded. Demon King shook his head and said, "You should know very well that the will of a first-class evil spirit completely comes from our dark will. And the primordial evil spirit itself is an extremely greedy and evil energy. It has no will, and its only will is extreme greed, devouring everything. And this is absolutely the same as Naga. If the primordial evil spirit directly activates all the darkness and evil in your heart, then perhaps it will make Naga even darker and more evil. But it seems that it is completely impossible to make her obey our orders. Devil Queen said. Then what should we do now? The Demon King Wentian said. Find my body in the human countries and completely revive me. Then, start the world extermination war. As you command. Devil Queen bowed and said. The Demon King Wentian sighed, his voice incomparably distant. Chapter 942. Devil Queen hesitated for a moment, and then said, Your Majesty, I can return this part of the evil spirit in my body to you. The Demon King Wentian shook his head and said, Return? How do you want to return it? You have a normal body, and I am an energy life form. Once the evil spirit enters your body, it will never come out again. If it comes out, it will come out together with your heart, your Xian veins, your sea of qi, and your brain. It has already been deeply engraved in the deepest part of your life. Devil Queen said. In other words, if I want to break away from the evil spirit, I have to completely turn myself into an energy life form, right? The Demon King Wentian glanced at Devil Queen, and then said, Piaoling, just this is not enough. The most important thing is that the will that has been completely fused with by the evil spirit is also willing to leave your body. So, are you willing to let the evil spirit leave your life? Devil Queen said. If it is to return it to your Majesty Demon King, I am willing. No, no, no. The Demon King Wentian said. I believe that you are willing in your heart. But the will in the deepest part of your life is not willing. Because you and the evil spirit have already fused into one. Devil Queen was silent for a moment and said, But without the evil spirit, even if I go and take the body that you have a contract with, you will resurrect in his body. That body will also not be able to bear your incomparably powerful energy, and your cultivation will be greatly reduced. Yes, not only will my cultivation be reduced, it will not even be 1/10 of what it is now. The Demon King Wentian sighed. So, I need that Chaos Emperor armor even more. Under the transformation of the energy formation, it can wrap my energy and not scatter it. Is a high-level devil spirit enough? Devil Queen said. There are only 83 devil spirits above the 15th rank. Because you previously had plans to possess Yang Dingtian, the plan to hunt demon spirits was temporarily put on hold. However, we will send Dongli, Li Ming, Mu Dan, Wu Daozi, and other experts to the second dark realm to hunt the devil's souls. The Demon King Wentian said. All right. I have to hurry, I really can't wait to leave this darkness empire. I want to go to the human countries to take a look. Yang Dingtian, this little fellow, was indeed impressive. He actually hid his trump card so deeply. He actually hid a Naga, who would have thought? The Devil Queen said. I don't think we need to worry too much about this Naga for the time being, because she has already disappeared. Yang Dingtian can't control her anymore. The Demon King Wentian said. Then we have to hurry even more. Immediately send Dongli, Li Ming, Mu Dan, and the others to hunt enough devil souls. After my primal Chaos Emperor armor is completed, we will immediately declare war on the human countries and launch an apocalyptic war. In short, we can't let Yang Dingtian have enough time to find Naga. We must find that Naga before Yang Dingtian does. Devil Queen was silent for a moment, then said, But that Naga is so powerful. Even if we find her, we can't do anything about it. We might even die at her hands. The Demon King Wentian said, When the primordial evil spirit gradually seeps into her soul, she won't be controlled by us. However, at least she will become one of our kind, and even an ally. Because there are some things that Yang Dingtian can't satisfy Naga, but we can. For example, endless life, endless energy. Devil Queen nodded and said, What should we do about Wu Yu and the Mermaid Queen Violets? The Demon King Wentian said, You can't kill the Mermaid Queen alone. After I completely revive, I can kill her. As for Wu Yu, you have to make a trip to Little Western Paradise, and let Yongxi Wentian make a final attempt to redeem her. If she wants to completely stand on the opposite side of us, then I'm sorry. Devil Queen bowed and said, Yes, Your Majesty. The Demon King Wentian said, Good, then you can go now. Go to the human countries to find my contracted body and bring him back. Do you know what to do? Queen Devil Queen said. This concubine knows. The Demon King Wentian said, while you're at it, you can also bring those fox demons back to Little Western Paradise. They can more or less influence the strategy of the fox demons and cooperate with Yongxi. Yes. Queen Devil Queen said. Then she suddenly spread open her huge black wings and flew towards the void outside. She went to the human countries to steal the Demon King Wentian's contracted body. Leaving the Dark Empire with her were Princely Ming, Dongli, Mu Dan, Wu Daozi and other half-saints, as well as many unbounded Grand Masters and Grade 2 evil spirits. These experts of evil ways were going to the second dark domain to hunt enough evil spirits to create the Chaos Emperor armor for the Demon King Wentian. There were also several hundred fox demons who took the opportunity to leave the Empire of Darkness and return to Little Western Paradise. In the end, Shura Vulture was summoned to the Celestial Palace in the Skirich Imperial capital. Her expression was full of uneasiness. Her father, Willingzi, was still imprisoned in the energy prison, receiving the lightning punishment to punish him for his cowardice in the previous battle. Vulture, in the previous battle, you showed mercy to Yang Dingtian. The Demon King Wentian said slowly. Shura Vulture said with a trembling voice, Your Majesty, Yang Dingtian was very weak at that time, and I was worried that he would be very useful to you, so I didn't hurt him. The Demon King Wentian said, You love him very much, don't you? Shura Vulture said, You asked me to marry him. That night, he indeed left a very deep impression on you. The Demon King Wentian said, But I know that this kind of love in your heart will become very dull with the passage of time, right? What you love the most is still the power and power that belongs to you, right? Shura Vulture nodded and said, Yes, Your Majesty. The Demon King Wentian said, Very good. Then you should know who gave you everything you have. Your incomparably powerful cultivation, your unparalleled celestial spirit master summoning technique. Your unparalleled beauty and figure, everything you have was given by me, and I can take it back at any time. Shura Vulture was shocked, then immediately said, Your Majesty, I have always obeyed your orders. The Demon King Wentian smiled and said, Of course I know. Soon, I will declare war on the human countries, and the Legion of Doom will surge out. At that time, you will become the supreme commander of this legion. Princely Ming, Princess Mudan, and young Master Dongli will all become your subordinates, as well as Willingzi and Wu Daozi. And after destroying the Council of Light Legion, the entire northern Zhongzhou, Greater Zhongzhou, and Zhongjing will all be conferred to you. Suddenly, Vulture felt that her breathing was not smooth. Zhongjing, the most prosperous city in the world, northern Zhongzhou, Greater Zhongzhou, was the essence of this world. If she became the master of this land, she would be the supreme empress. Suddenly, she felt that her delicate body began to heat up and tremble. The Demon King Wentian said, Moreover, as I said before, you will marry the new Demon King, so you will become the first demon concubine. I will be completely resurrected soon and have a human body. At that time, you will become my true first demon concubine. Are you willing? Vulture felt a chill in her heart, and a wave of disgust surged in her heart. She loved power and authority, but for men, she really only wanted Yang Dingtian. However, she did not dare to reveal this thought, and only bowed ambiguously. Vulture thanks Your Majesty. And your father? The Demon King Wentian said, Originally, he was bound to die, but after all, he is your father, so you can release him at any time. After all, you are also half the mistress of the entire Empire of Darkness. Shura Vulture gritted her teeth and said, Such a useless man, let him be imprisoned for a few more days. Let him be tortured for a few more days. Suddenly, the Demon King Wentian was stunned at first, then he smiled. This Shura Vulture was indeed harsh and ungrateful. If she treated her own father like this, what about others? For a woman like her, only power and influence were eternal. Of course, he did not know that. For a woman like Shura Vulture, there was another problem, and that was that she pursued her own happiness and satisfaction. Although she looked incomparably respectful and flattering, she had been standing while talking to him, and had never knelt down. Wu Yu left, and only Yang Dingtian and the Mermaid Queen were left. "I will accompany you to the Mermaid Empire," Yang Dingtian said. "No, it is not easy for me to come out and see the scenery of the human world. I will play for at least half a month before going back," the Mermaid Queen Violet said. Yang Dingtian: "But during this time, the Empire of Darkness may attack your Mermaid Empire, aren't you worried?" "I am worried," the Mermaid Queen said. "But I want to play outside for a while more." Yang Dingtian was completely speechless. He understood that the Mermaid Queen did not even cherish her own life, let alone the lives of the Mermaid Empire. "Okay, Yang Dingtian. I will bring you back to my home to see my wife and children. Then, we will look for Naga Shuang." "Okay," the Mermaid Queen said. Then, Yang Dingtian brought the Mermaid Queen and flew quickly towards Cloud Sky City. A few hours later, Yang Dingtian landed in the valley of Cloud Heaven City while feeling extremely pleasantly surprised. As for Mistress Yan Yan and the others, they left the prayer room. They could finally put their hands on their hearts at ease. They had lost count of how many times this had happened. Every time Yang Dingtian left home, Yan Yan and the rest would start praying. Their hearts would be tightly squeezed together, afraid that he would not come back. And every time Yang Dingtian came back, it was like a festival. This time, although the experience was very dangerous, it was still okay for Yan Yan. Yang Dingtian had only left home for a few months. They did not know that this was the most dangerous time for Yang Dingtian. At this time, the Devil Queen, Prince Li Ming, and the rest also began to separate. Dongli, Li Ming, Mu Dan, and the rest would go to the Dark Realm to hunt demon souls. As for the Devil Queen's undead concubine, she was going to steal the contracted body of Devil King Wen Tian. In the night, she flew towards the west. Chapter 943. Yang Dingtian immediately rushed out of the castle as if he was facing a great enemy. Then, he saw the Devil Queen with her huge wings open. She covered the 2 moons and came from the east. Wherever she passed, the ground was covered by a black shadow. Yang Dingtian's mind locked onto the Emperor Grade Soul's sword and stared at the Devil Queen in the air. However, he didn't know why she came this time. And the Mermaid Queen Violets also flew to Yang Dingtian's side and stared coldly at the Devil Queen in the air. Behind her, a huge jade coffin attracted Yang Dingtian's attention. Soon enough, the Devil Empress dead concubine flew over the Cloud Heaven City and looked down at Yang Dingtian and the entire Cloud Heaven City. She smiled contemptuously and didn't stop or say anything. She continued to head west. Her black shadow kept flying towards the west and finally disappeared from everyone's sight. Just as Yang Dingtian heaved a sigh of relief, whooshing sounds could be heard as hundreds of light figures flew over from the sky. Each figure was like a meteor. They were the experts of the Demon Fox clan led by Yao Ming. They were returning to Little Western Paradise. Yang Dingtian said to Dongfang Minmi, "Master, continue to discuss the evacuation. Decide on all the work and distribute it. As for how many troops to invest in this war zone and how to distribute the defense areas, your commander will discuss it first and then hand over the results to me." "Yes," Dongfang Minmi said. Yang Dingtian said, "Although there's definitely not enough time, let the Warlock team study what kind of crystal can deal the greatest damage to half-body and half-energy creatures. In my memory, some demon beasts are half-body and half-energy creatures." "Yes," Dongfang Minmi said. Then Yang Dingtian and the Mermaid Queen flew into the air and began to summon Yao Li and Bolu. The 4 of them followed behind the Devil Queen and flew to the Forbidden Continent's sea region. At this moment, Yan Yan flew over on the demon vulture King Azeo. Yang Dingtian was stunned. Yan Yan would never look for him at a critical moment, let alone affect his official business. "What's wrong?" Yang Dingtian asked softly. Yan Yan came to Yang Dingtian's side and said softly, "Husband, I don't know why, but I suddenly feel my heart palpitating." Yang Dingtian gently rubbed her chest and said, "Don't worry, a great devil flew over our heads just now. Did you wake Yenner up? Yan Yan shook her head and said, No, she slept with Mother today. Not only me, Mother also felt her heart palpitate and woke up. Yang Dingtian gently hugged her slowed body and stroked her back. Baby, what do you want me to do? Yan Yan said. Mother had a nightmare and said that she was very worried about Father. Why don't you take me to see Father? Shimin Wuya was completely frozen tens of thousands of meters below Cloud Sky City. Moreover, Yang Dingtian had set up a very, very powerful energy formation in the place where he was frozen. All right, I'll accompany you to take a look, Yang Dingtian said. Yan Yan looked at the Mermaid Queen, Yaoli, and Bola who were about to set off. She immediately said embarrassedly, Husband, did I delay your important matters? Yang Dingtian said, You are my most important matter. Then, he turned to the Mermaid Queen and said, Wait a moment, I'll be there in a while. Then, Yang Dingtian brought Yan Yan into the depths of Cloud Sky City's underground cave. Baby, what did mother-in-law say? Yang Dingtian asked. Yan Yan said, Mother suddenly had a nightmare. She said that Father kept saying to save him, save him. Yang Dingtian's mind suddenly recalled the jade coffin behind the Queen Devil Queen, and his heart suddenly palpitated. Soon, Yang Dingtian and Yan Yan arrived at the cave tens of thousands of meters underground. After opening the stone door that was dozens of feet thick, Yang Dingtian and Yan Yan entered Shimin Wuya's room. This place was filled with powerful energy-killing arrays. It had used over 1 million gene of all kinds of crystals and countless demon cores to create them. It could be said that even a half-step saint expert would not be able to withstand the damage of the energy array. Even a saint expert would not be able to enter silently. It would cause a huge commotion. After entering, Yang Dingtian had to use complicated methods to break the energy-killing arrays. At this moment, Yan Yan turned her body and did not look at the process of Yang Dingtian breaking the energy array. Silly girl. Yang Dingtian could not help but pat her lightly. Yan Yan was very, very careful in this aspect. Ever since Yang Dingtian became the Lord of Cloud Sky City, she had never interfered in any official matters. The only identity she had was Yang Dingtian's wife. She was not the wife of the Lord of Cloud Sky City, nor was she the wife of the Honorable Speaker or the wife of the Tiendo League's leader. After a full 15 minutes, Yang Dingtian used hundreds of steps and finally completely removed the energy-killing arrays. Then, he slowly opened a huge crystal door. Instantly, the extremely cold unfreezing water inside was revealed. Inside, there were more than tens of thousands of gene of unfreezing water. In the center of the unfreezing water was a piece of 10,000-year-old cold jade. Shimin Wuya's body was sealed in this 10,000-year-old cold jade. At this moment, the cold jade was still vivid and lifelike through the unfreezing water. Shimin Wuya still looked as majestic and heroic as ever. Furthermore, his soul sword was still in his hand. Look, Daddy is here, Yang Dingtian said gently. Yan Yan clutched her chest and heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she said, It's my fault for making you go through so much trouble. Silly girl, Yang Dingtian said gently and kissed her little mouth. All right, hurry up and restore everything, then go and do your things, Yan Yan said gently. I've already delayed you for a long time. Yang Dingtian hugged her tightly, placed his hand on her fleshy waist, and gently pinched it. How could that be? Moreover, I want to eat you right here, right now. Just now, I swallowed everything in one go and didn't eat carefully. You're going to die. Daddy is beside you. Yan Yan's face instantly turned red and she could not help but hit him. Then, Yang Dingtian spent another 15 minutes to restore the energy array's mechanisms one by one. After completely sealing the entire room, he brought Yan Yan back to the ground. Then, Yang Dingtian, Mermaid Queen, Yaoli, and Bola flew towards the Forbidden Continent's sea area. At this time, the sky was just about to brighten. Yang Dingtian's children were still sleeping soundly. Queen Devil Queen and the Demon Fox experts did not fly fast. Although they were delayed for more than half an hour, Yang Dingtian still caught up with them. At noon the next day, everyone arrived at the Forbidden Continent's sea area. And the Netherworld sees Wu Yu had long been waiting here. She looked at Queen Devil Queen and hundreds of demon fox experts and slowly said, "The demon fox race can enter, but others can't. Since when did this skull hall become your private property?" The Infernal Queen, dead princess, asked calmly. Wu Yu said, "My Netherworld Sea is in charge of the door to the human kingdom. Evil ways have long acknowledged this." Queen Devil Queen sneered and said, "That was then and this is now." Wu Yu did not waste time and directly pulled out her sword and said, "Although I most likely won't participate in the battle between evil ways and Yang Dingtian, but I promise to guard the door to the human kingdom, so I still have to do it." Then, Yang Dingtian and Mermaid Queen Violets also flew up and formed a triangular formation with Wu Yu. 2 saints, 1 half-saint. Wu Yu said to the demon foxes, "What are you still waiting for? Do you also want to draw your sword and fight?" Yao Ming looked at Yang Dingtian for a long time. In his heart, he wished he could tear Yang Dingtian into pieces. However, the Naga behind Yang Dingtian had really shocked him. And after calming down, he still had lingering fears about the strength of the Empire of Darkness. Perhaps, the best way for the demon fox race to not interfere in this battle between good and evil in the human kingdom was not to interfere. "Let's go!" the Jinla clan's Yao Ming ordered. Whoosh 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 whoosh. He led hundreds of demon fox experts into the head hall and returned to the Little Western Paradise. From the beginning to the end, he did not look at Yao Li, even though she was his sister. Suddenly, in the sky above the Forbidden Continent, only Yang Dingtian, Mermaid Queen, Yao Li, Bolu, Wu Yu and Queen Devil Queen were left. At this moment, Yang Dingtian's side had 2 saint class, 1 half-saint, and 2 half-saints that were close to being half-saints. Suddenly, he could not help but look at the Mermaid Queen with a questioning gaze. "Yang Dingtian, I'm surrounded. This is a rare opportunity. If you want to capture me and take my wand, then the Legion of Doom will be forever sealed in the Empire of Darkness, right?" the Queen Devil Queen said. Yang Dingtian nodded without hesitation. "All right, let's try," the Queen Devil Queen said with a smile. The Mermaid Queen shook her head, and Wu Yu also lowered his gaze. The 2 saints expressed that they could not do it. Because the Queen Devil Queen had the primordial evil spirit in her body, they could not kill her. Since they could not kill her, they could not capture her. "All right, since you don't want me to go to the Little Western Paradise, then I won't go." The Queen Devil Queen smiled and said, "Yang Dingtian, are you going to fight or not? If not, I'm leaving." "Please," Yang Dingtian said. The Queen Devil Queen smiled charmingly, then continued to carry the jade coffin and flew towards the east. Yang Dingtian bowed to Wu Yu and said, "Sect Master Wu Yu." Wu Yu smiled and said, "You are the male lead of this story, so perform well. Don't make me fall in love with someone else." Yang Dingtian smiled bitterly and said, "I'll try my best." Wu Yu continued, "Don't do meaningless things. Seize this point and find Naga. Everything will be a victory. If you can't find Naga, no matter how hard you work, it will be useless. The human countries will be destroyed. You can't stop it." Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "I know, Sect Master Wu Yu." "Then go," Wu Yu said. Yang Dingtian said to Yao Li and Bolu, "I'll have to trouble the 2 of you to follow Sect Master Wu Yu and guard the gate of the human countries. If there is anything important, report back to the Council of Light." "All right," Yao Li said. "Yes." Bolu bowed. Then, Yang Dingtian and the Mermaid Queen continued to follow the Queen Devil Queen's trail and flew east. As long as the Queen Devil Queen appears in the human countries, he must keep an eye on her. In particular, he had to prevent her from doing anything to Cloud Sky City. After Yang Dingtian flew away, Yao Li could not hold it in any longer and looked at Wu Yu with a puzzled gaze. Regarding Wu Yu, regardless of whether it was Yao Li or Bo Lu, they had long heard of his great name. The only mixed-blood descendant of the Silent Clan, the daughter of the Wu was very famous in Little Western Paradise. Her status was also very high. She was the dream lover of countless people. Practically all of the 9 great tribes' clan chiefs wanted to marry Wu, including Yao Li's father and Jia's father. Therefore, Yao Li's gaze when looking at Wu was somewhat idolizing. Wu Yu's position should be the powerful and upgraded version of Jia. It was really strange. Why would she stand on Yang Dingtian's side? Wu Yu smiled and said, "You're very curious why I'm helping Yang Dingtian, right?" Yao Li nodded. Wu Yu said, "He slept with me, so I'm standing on his side." Yao Li suddenly exclaimed in disbelief. "Really?" Yao Li asked. "Really?" Wu Yu nodded very seriously. Immediately, Yao Li gasped in amazement, shocked like a celestial being. Then, she finally could not help but say, "His Excellency Yang Dingtian's leadership temperament is indeed convincing, but in terms of pure manly charm, he's just alright. He can't compare to Yao Qi, right?" Wu Yu asked with a smile. Although Yao Li was embarrassed, she still nodded and admitted it. Wu Yu said, "Yao Li, men are different from men. Women are still women, and they are different." Yao Li nodded as if she understood. Yang Dingtian and the Mermaid Queen had been monitoring the Queen Devil Queen, preventing her from doing anything that would harm the human countries and monitoring her every move. Especially when she flew over the sky above Cloud Heaven City, Yang Dingtian's heart was in his throat as he was afraid that she would do something. Because the jade coffin behind her was really too scary. However, the Queen Devil Queen still did not do anything. When she flew over Cloud Sky City, she still let out a slightly mocking smile. Then, she continued to fly towards the west. Finally, she flew to the sky above Sky Demon City, then went into the Demon City's merchant palace and went underground, returning to the Empire of Darkness. It was as if she came out of the Empire of Darkness to send the demonic fox experts back to Little Western Paradise. Although Yang Dingtian's heart was still filled with doubts, he still left Sky Demon City and returned to Cloud Sky City. After returning to Cloud Sky City, what Yang Dingtian did was to sign countless documents. All of these documents were about the large-scale evacuation of the people to the south and the clearing of the battlefield. Also, more than 10 million troops were to gather, change the defense, and enter the battlefield in advance. Also, the entire human countries entered a second level of combat readiness. These orders of the highest level, once Yang Dingtian signed them, would immediately take effect. Suddenly, the largest war machine in history, the political machine, all began to operate. The entire world would completely change color. After signing countless documents, Yang Dingtian could not stay any longer. Next, he had to do 2 things. The first was to find Naga Shuang. The second was to bring out the tens of millions of sea race troops of the Mermaid Empire and enter the human country's sea region to set up defenses. These 2 things were very important, but they could not be done at the same time. At this moment, Queen Poisa suddenly said, "Little Tian, I want to revive and then go find Shuang." Yang Dingtian was stunned. Queen Poisa actually took the initiative to say that she wanted to revive. Chapter 944. Queen Poisa is relatively lazy, so she is not very anxious about resurrection, but now she actually took the initiative to mention it. In the Empire of Darkness, after Shuang devoured the evil spirit and completely transformed, I felt as if I had changed a lot, Queen Poisa said. Yang Dingtian was stunned and asked with concern, "Is it a good change or a bad change?" Queen Poisa said, "I don't know. Before Shuang became a Naga, but she didn't completely transform. Every day, my cultivation is declining, and every day I become weaker and weaker. It was as if she had been devouring my energy, So even though we were thousands of miles apart, I could still feel her every day. What about now? Yang Dingtian asked. Queen Poisa said, Now, this energy connection seems to be broken. Broken? Yang Dingtian, you can't feel Schwanger's existence? Queen Poisa nodded and said with a little sadness, Of course, in fact, many Naga are like this. As long as it is a sea snake or a mermaid, the Naga born from the seed of a human will one day completely cut off all relations with their mother. Because they are the high and mighty Naga, they can't have anything to do with the mermaid clan and the sea snake clan. Even if we are their mother, we can't. Yang Dingtian was not surprised by this. After the Naga Empire dominated the whole world, they wiped out almost all the advanced marine civilizations, leaving only the sea snake clan and the mermaid clan. Because this was their mother's clan. But at the last moment, they still did not show mercy and wiped out the mermaid clan and the sea snake clan. Yang Dingtian, Sha, you want to resurrect to find Shuang, right? Dugu Aoshuang nodded and said, Yes. You've already reached the most dangerous point. I can't hide in your mind and enjoy my leisure any longer. Moreover, although Schwanger is Naga, she is also my daughter. I want to find her. I don't want to have irreversible consequences. Yang Dingtian thought for a while, then said, Okay, since you have decided, then let's revive. But Sha, after you revive, do you plan to go to the Naga Empire? Once Hai Xian finds you, she will definitely kill you. Moreover, the Naga Empire has completely changed. Queen Poisa said, I don't think so. Finding Schwanger is the most important thing for us right now. Since the decision had been made, there was no time to lose. Yang Dingtian immediately packed everything and flew towards the Lee Water Villa with the Mermaid Queen Violets. When they arrived at the Lee Water Villa, Yang Dingtian discovered a very, very serious problem. He couldn't go into the water. He couldn't go to the bottom of the lake and pull Poisa's body up. Because Naga Shuang is no longer by his side. When Yang Dingtian sank Queen Poisa's body to the bottom of the lake and placed it beside the 10,000-year-old phantom spirit demon mother, he never thought that one day Naga Shuang would leave his side. Yang Dingtian can only dive to the bottom of the lake when he is beside Naga. The ice energy of the phantom spirit demon mother is too terrifying. Even if he is a half-sage expert, he can't reach the bottom. Because in the end, even the Xian meridians, Qi-Si, and even divine sense will be completely frozen. No matter how much heat Yang Dingtian releases, it is useless. It will all be swallowed by the phantom spirit demon mother. This is really troublesome. At that time, he was worried that Queen Hai Xian would come and steal it, so he placed it in the safest place. That's right, even if Hai Xian knows where it is, she can't take it away. But now, Yang Dingtian can't fish it out. Yang Dingtian still clenches his teeth and gives it a try. This phantom spirit demon mother is still so timid. The moment Yang Dingtian enters the water, he immediately freezes completely. The entire huge lake instantly turns into a block of ice. When the mermaid queen on the shore sees this, she can't help but click her tongue in wonder. Yang Dingtian releases the Xian flame and dives down continuously. Tens of meters, hundreds of meters, thousands of meters. Compared to the last time, it is a lot more awesome. But it ends here. Just as he dives halfway to the bottom of the lake, Yang Dingtian already feels that he has lost control of his body. The heat of the Xian flame that he releases is also instantly swallowed up cleanly. It is useless. Immediately after, his entire nerves and consciousness start to become numb. It is simply impossible to dive any deeper. If he dives any deeper, he will basically never wake up again. Of course, don't blame humans for being too useless. The phantom spirit demon mother has been swallowing for tens of thousands of years, or even tens of thousands of years. Moreover, she is absolutely single-minded. She is only responsible for swallowing the ice energy. Such a small and beautiful jellyfish directly nourishes hundreds of miles of land. As a result, the barren land becomes an oasis. Yang Dingtian hurriedly rushes up and out of the ice surface. Just as he leaves the ice surface, the entire lake melts instantly, turning into a slightly rippling, clear lake water. The Mermaid Queen says in surprise, "What is under the lake? Is it very magical? A phantom spirit demon mother?" Yang Dingtian's gaze falls on the Mermaid Queen's beautiful and enchanting body and face. Eh? If a half-saint can't dive to the bottom of the lake, then can a saint? Immediately Yang Dingtian says, "The temperature of the lake is too shocking. I can only dive halfway. Your cultivation is much higher than mine. Can you help me to get something from the bottom of the lake?" No. The Mermaid Queen is very straightforward and directly rejects. Yang Dingtian is stunned and says, "Why not?" The Mermaid Queen says, "First, you and I are only allies. I am not your subordinate. Second, you have a good life, but I am not your wife, so there is no need for me to obey your orders." Yang Dingtian says, "But as friends, we should help each other." The Mermaid Queen says, "You have 9 Yang Xian meridians and a heaven and earth Xian flame. So although your cultivation is much lower than mine, your resistance to the cold is not much lower than mine. The phantom spirit demon mother is tens of thousands of years old. Not only is the temperature terrible, but also the fatal ice energy. This has nothing to do with temperature. I am a woman and cannot be exposed to the cold." Yang Dingtian is shocked again. The Mermaid Queen clutches her stomach and says, "Although I have never thought of having a child, what if I want to? A woman's palace will be affected after being exposed to the cold." "All right." Yang Dingtian is convinced. He can't help but glance at the Mermaid Queen, imagining her pregnant appearance. "What, you really want me to have a child?" the Mermaid Queen says. Yang Dingtian immediately averts his gaze, resolutely not replying. Then, he starts to rack his brain, thinking of how to fish up Queen Poise's body. But there is nothing he can do. Even a saint is not willing to sneak near the phantom spirit demon mother. It seems that only the Naga is not afraid of the phantom spirit demon mother's ice energy. Yang Dingtian is trapped in a cocoon of his own making. Suddenly, the Mermaid Queen says, "What do you want to fish from the bottom of the lake?" Yang Dingtian, "A body, a Naga Queen's body." The Mermaid Queen says, "Yang Dingtian, I don't think you are this stupid usually. Why are you suddenly so stupid today? You are afraid of the phantom spirit demon mother's ice energy, but is your soul sword afraid?" Yang Dingtian is surprised and says, "It should not be afraid." The Mermaid Queen says, "Under the lowest temperature, will your soul sword crack?" Yang Dingtian replied, "That will definitely not happen." The Mermaid Queen says, "Then what are you waiting for? Directly control the soul sword to enter the water and fish her out." Yang Dingtian slaps his head, realizing that he is really stupid. Why didn't he think of the soul sword? Then, he directly uses his consciousness to control the soul sword. Swoosh! The soul sword close to the Emperor Grade suddenly shot out from the space ring, directly drilling into the lake. The phantom spirit demon mother feels the intruder, and immediately spits out countless ice energy again. In an instant, the entire lake is completely frozen. The soul sword close to the Emperor Grade continuously activates the ice and continuously dives underground. At first, it is very easy, but then it slows down slightly. It is not because the soul sword is afraid of low temperature. In fact, even the lowest temperature is unable to harm the soul sword. It is because, the lower the temperature, the harder the ice. The soul sword can only use pure physical methods to dig through the ice and drill to the bottom of the lake, so its speed is slightly slower, but it is still very easy. Yang Dingtian, if I didn't guess wrongly, in the Empire of Darkness, this soul sword of yours once slashed out an incomparably shocking amount of energy, and even let out a huge roar of the Naga royalty. In that instant, the attack was even more powerful than the Naga Duga Shuang, right? The Mermaid Queen says. Yang Dingtian nodded and says, I once came into contact with the demon nucleus of the Naga royalty. There was once a powerful spiritual energy that surged out from the demon nucleus, and now it is in my soul sword. But it is very strange, when I injected the Xian vein essence into the soul sword, it did not have any reaction. Instead, my sword Soul Ah Cho has always been in charge of the Soul Sword. Until in the Empire of Darkness, when I heard the cries of the Naga Duga Shuang, it seemed to have resonated with the spiritual energy of the Naga royalty, and it directly released a heaven-defying attack. The Mermaid Queen says. Then now, can you still feel its existence? I can't feel it at all. Yang Dingtian says. It is as if it does not exist at all. And that kind of heaven-defying attack has never appeared a second time. The Mermaid Queen sighed and says, Sigh, what a pity. If you can summon such a powerful sword so frequently, then there is no need for Naga Dugu to be alone. Then there's no need for Naga Dugu Aoshuang. Just the sword soul is enough to destroy the world-destroying army. Yang Dingtian sighs and says, Who said it isn't? But I think that the remaining energy of a demon nucleus of the Naga royalty should be very limited, and it should not be able to attack so many times. The Mermaid Queen says, Right, where is the demon nucleus of the Naga royalty? Yang Dingtian says, In the Netherworld Sea, with Sect Master Wu Yu. Go and ask her for it. The Mermaid Queen says, Anyway, you have already done it. Even if you are not husband and wife, you are still lovers. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's heart is moved. Chapter 945. Yang Dingtian had indeed thought about asking Wu Yu for the Naga royalty demon core. It was very obvious that the energy of the Naga royalty demon core was far beyond the energy of the Millennium Owl. However, there was also a problem. Once the Naga royalty demon core was embedded in the soul sword, would Yang Dingtian still be able to control the soul sword? This was because in the Empire of Darkness, the fatal blow of the Naga royalty sword spirit was indeed not controlled by him. It was completely summoned by the Naga Shuang's sorrowful cry. Moreover, Yang Dingtian was very curious about one thing. In the Empire of Darkness, the energy of the Naga royalty sword spirit's fatal blow could be said to have far exceeded the limit of the Millennium Owl's demon core. Although it was only a single blow, it had directly killed thousands of dark dragons and dark demonic dragons. It could be said that the energy of this soul sword was hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of times greater than the maximum energy of Yang Dingtian's soul sword. Therefore, this energy definitely did not come from the Millennium Owl's demon core, but from the Naga royalty spiritual power itself. However, this Naga royalty spiritual power had once stayed in Yang Dingtian's mind. According to the principle of energy, a large enough energy must be placed in a large enough container. At that time, Yang Dingtian was so weak. How could such a powerful energy of the Naga royalty be stored in his body? Therefore, Yang Dingtian still could not understand the fatal blow of the Naga royalty sword spirit. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian voiced his doubts. The spiritual power of the Naga royalty once stayed in my body for a short period of time. This doesn't make sense. How could such a large amount of energy be stored in my body? Yang Dingtian asked. The Mermaid Queen glanced at Yang Dingtian and suddenly revealed a disdainful smile. Then, she said, When the amount of energy reaches a certain level, it can't be described with common sense. Let me ask you, which part of your body does the spiritual power of the Naga royalty reside in? Of course it's the brain, Yang Dingtian said. The Mermaid Queen said, Then do you know how big your brain is? How many things can it hold? This problem of hers was unsolvable even on Earth. There were more than 100 billion known neurons in the human brain. According to the known brain region, it could hold at least 10 to the power of 9,000. This was already hundreds of millions of times the size of the largest computer in the world. Thus, Yang Dingtian said, The human brain is an absolute unknown. If its capacity can be estimated, it should be larger than the entire chaos world. The Mermaid Queen was stunned. You're not stupid, Yang Dingtian. Of course, in fact, we have another understanding of big and small. For example, a drop of water should be small enough. When it hit a human body, the energy was almost negligible. However, it was made up of countless atoms. Once these atoms collide and fuse, the energy generated from a drop of water is enough to destroy a house. The Mermaid Queen looked at him deeply and said, You really aren't stupid. Did you know? Back then, Wentian used this kind of knowledge that I was completely unaware of to attract me. Instantly, Yang Dingtian couldn't help but frown. Jealous? The Mermaid Queen smiled. Don't tell me you think that after we slept together, I would become your woman? Ignoring her, Yang Dingtian continued. I understand what you mean. My brain is very, very big. Thus, the Naga royalty's spiritual energy is more than enough to fill my brain. However, it has an extremely powerful energy conversion method. It can convert spiritual energy and information energy into a type of offensive energy. Just like in our world, we can use the most ordinary water to extract certain atoms and transform them into the most powerful weapons in the history of our world. Since water can be converted into destructive energy, then Naga can also convert information energy into offensive energy, right? The Mermaid Queen looked at Yang Dingtian for a long time before saying, You really aren't stupid. Yang Dingtian said, Now I somewhat understand how the Naga became as powerful as a demigod. Because after they cultivate to a certain level, their understanding of energy is completely different from ours. Their usage of energy is also completely different. The Mermaid Queen looked at Yang Dingtian for a long time before sighing. No, you still overestimate the Naga. In the Naga Empire, the research on spiritual energy is still a minority. Its progress is too slow. The mainstream of the Naga Empire is still directly devouring all energy. The Naga royalty in your soul sword might be a minority in the Naga Empire. Yang Dingtian thought for a long time before confirming the Mermaid Queen's words. Regarding this point, he had a deeper feeling. Because in New Naga, all the Naga empires were working hard to break through their spiritual energy. And until now, they had been working hard for tens of thousands of years. Then, Yang Dingtian's body suddenly trembled. He realized that the Naga royalty in his soul sword released a fatal blow that was completely epoch-making. Did this mean that he had solved the problem that New Naga had not solved for 10,000 years? If that was the case, then it would be too great. This meant that the demigod race, the Naga Empire, had achieved a breakthrough in energy. This kind of breakthrough could even directly change the chaotic world. Yang Dingtian said, Is there no example of spiritual energy breakthrough in the Naga Empire before? The Mermaid Queen said, There is, the Medusa Empress is. She can directly petrify all life with her gaze. This is an incomparably powerful spiritual energy transformed into actual offensive energy. Of course, the Naga Empire has not figured out why she can do this. Medusa's petrification ability seems to be an innate talent. Yang Dingtian said, Medusa's spiritual energy attack and the Naga royalty's spiritual energy transformation into offensive energy are absolutely different. The Medusa Empress's gaze attack only causes a qualitative change in the creatures themselves, turning them into stone. But this is not a direct energy attack. But the Naga royalty in my soul sword is completely spiritual information energy that directly transforms into offensive energy. The Mermaid Queen was silent for a moment, then said, Yes, you are right. So, everything that happened that day was greater than we imagined, more epoch-making, and even changed the entire world. This means that Naga has officially walked the path of spiritual energy, which means that they may enter a new civilization. Yang Dingtian suddenly felt a slight sense of suffocation. This feeling was as if he had just touched the divine realm. And this realm was even more profound than the divine realm. Or perhaps, this was a part of the divine realm itself, and was its highest level. This was a very mysterious feeling. Such an important matter, Yang Dingtian actually only thought it through today. If the Mermaid Queen did not ask Yang Dingtian to ask Wu Yu for the Naga royalty demon core, he would not have thought of this matter. In this way, the identity of the Naga royalty in the soul sword became very, very unusual. It could be seen that he had already started researching spiritual energy before the Great Nirvana. Obviously, he should also be dead. But he left behind a demon core, and then injected his spiritual energy into the demon core in an attempt to continue his research on spiritual energy. Then, 10,000 years after the Great Nirvana, his research seemed to have produced results. Then, who could this Naga royalty be? Yang Dingtian discovered that the demon core of the Naga royalty and the spiritual energy of the Naga royalty were far more important and mysterious than he had imagined. So much so that Yang Dingtian faintly felt, could this Naga royalty be the real key to saving the world in the future? If he could truly control this energy, then Yang Dingtian had the confidence to fight against the god of primal chaos. That's right, fight against the god of primal chaos. Wintian's method would not work because he was still playing the game under the framework of the god of primal chaos. This was like China using USD to fight an economic war with America. It was impossible to win, because USD was made by America. If one wanted to fight against the god of primal chaos, or even defeat him, one had to jump out of the framework of the god of primal chaos and jump out of the rules of the game. Only by standing on the same level as him could one defeat him. Just when Yang Dingtian was incomparably shocked, the soul sword had already drilled into the bottom of the lake. Then, it easily lifted the energy jade coffin containing Queen Poisa's body and quickly rose up. A few minutes later, bang! The ice on the surface of the lake suddenly shattered. The soul sword lifted the energy jade coffin and directly flew out of the lake. After sensing that the intruder had left, the phantom spirit demoness swallowed all the ice energy back. Thus, the entire lake instantly melted and turned into a lake as clear as a mirror. Yang Dingtian flew over, carried the energy jade coffin and slowly placed it on the ground. Opening the energy jade coffin, Queen Poisa was revealed. She was still vivid and lifelike, still so beautiful that it was suffocating. In fact, her body looked even healthier than when she was faking her death. In fact, her entire body was rippling with a kind of energy aura. Yang Dingtian realized that Poisa had become even more beautiful. Originally, her beauty was only on the same level as High Xian. Now, it seemed like she had overshadowed High Xian and was faintly on the same level as the Mermaid Queen. That's right, Queen Poisa was right. She had indeed undergone some changes. After the Naga Xuan had completely transformed, she had also undergone some changes. Indeed, she's extremely beautiful. The Mermaid Queen sneered. I didn't expect that there would be a woman in this world who could compare to me, Nihility Piao Ling and Queen Devil Queen. Then, the Mermaid Queen asked, Yang Dingtian, who is she? Yang Dingtian said, she is the mother of the Naga Didu Shuang. When the Mermaid Queen heard this, her body trembled and she immediately put away all the disrespect in her heart. First of all, the mermaid race and the sea serpent race were originally equal. Secondly, the mermaid race and the sea serpent race that were prepared to give birth to Naga had a higher status. And the mermaid race and the sea serpent race that had given birth to Naga had a higher status. In the underwater civilization, they were second only to Naga. Therefore, in terms of the strict hierarchy of the underwater civilization, Queen Poisa's status had already surpassed the Mermaid Queen Violet's. You want to resurrect her? The Mermaid Queen said. If it's to control Naga, it's useless. Because according to the laws of the Naga Empire, Naga must never have anything to do with their mermaid mother or sea serpent mother. They must never even see them. Once the mermaid mother or sea serpent mother takes the initiative to meet their Naga children, they will be executed. Yang Dingtian said. Now we are not in the Naga Empire. I'm resurrecting her only because she wants to be resurrected. Then Yang Dingtian said, Violets, help me protect her. I'm going to resurrect her. Okay, the Mermaid Queen said seriously, and then disappeared into thin air. Instantly, everything within 100 miles was enveloped by her energy. It could be said that not even a fly could fly in now. No one in this world could interfere with Yang Dingtian's resurrection of Poisa. Resurrecting Queen Poisa was much easier than resurrecting Dong Fang Minmi. Because she had her own body, and she was not really dead. It was just that the energy in her body had completely solidified. Even her sea of qi was still intact, it was just that it had stopped rotating. Of course, there were still risks. Because Queen Poisa's soul could not leave Yang Dingtian's brain on its own. It had to be guided out by Yang Dingtian using the soul assimilation art. That's right, unless one became the owner of this brain, it was impossible to leave after entering it. Just like what Yang Dingtian said, a human's brain was bigger than the entire chaotic world, it was even like the universe. And a soul that was lodging for the night was in this world. To use the power of one's soul to leave this world was like a human using his jumping ability to jump out of the earth. It was completely impossible. He had to use external forces. Yang Dingtian sat down cross-legged and slowly entered meditation. Then, he used his consciousness to search for Queen Poise's soul in his own brain. This was very simple because Queen Poise's soul was complete, and would take the initiative to communicate with Yang Dingtian. Almost instantly, Yang Dingtian arrived at the top of a viper tower. Outside the door of Queen Poise's bedroom was the place where Yang Dingtian and Queen Poise had met. He pushed open the door. Inside was a gorgeous room with a soft and gorgeous bed. The peerlessly beautiful Queen Poise was lying lazily on top of it. She smiled and looked at Yang Dingtian charmingly. Her devil-like body was like the rise and fall of a mountain, releasing a magic charm. In Yang Dingtian's mind, she had always lived here. This was the place where she had faked her death. Yang Dingtian was speechless, then said, "Let's go, I'll take you out." Queen Poise said, "There's no rush. Let's get intimate first before we go out." Then, her beautiful eyes revealed an incomparably seductive light. Chapter 946. Even though Queen Poise's seductive posture made Yang Dingtian a little restless, Yang Dingtian still said helplessly, "All right, stop fooling around. Time is of the essence." Queen Poise changed her posture and lifted her chin. "All right then, I'll stay still and let you do whatever you want." Then she used her elbows to support herself on the bed. Her beautiful upper body was slightly propped up, making the curves of her body even more soul-stirring. She put on a seductive look, ready to be plucked by anyone. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, "Sha, completely relax your defenses and let yourself fall into a deep sleep." Queen Poise said, then slowly closed her beautiful eyes. Suddenly, she fell into a deep sleep. Yang Dingtian summoned the million-spirit demon flame, which was made up of billions of vengeful spirits. This pale and beautiful flame lit up in Yang Dingtian's palm. Yang Dingtian blew gently, and the flame turned into countless vengeful spirits, and flew towards Queen Poise. In an instant, the venomous queen's body was completely enveloped by the million-spirit demonic fire. The venomous queen appeared even more beautiful and alluring in the light of the fire. Yang Dingtian started to use the soul-assimilating art, and he started to chant a mysterious spell. Suddenly, the bedroom was filled with ghostly wails and howls, and the shadows were distorted. It was like hell. Yang Dingtian started to absorb Queen Poise's soul from his brain. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Suddenly, Queen Poise's body turned into rays of light and was sucked into Yang Dingtian's palm. Queen Poise's body on the bed became fainter and fainter, until only a thin layer of shadow was left. Swoosh, swoosh. In the end, even the thin layer of shadow disappeared and was completely absorbed into Yang Dingtian's palm. Queen Poise's soul was enveloped by the million-spirit demon flame and turned into a small flame, burning in Yang Dingtian's palm. This process was supposed to be extremely painful. The person's soul would be sucked away and separated from their brain. The person whose soul was sucked away would scream in pain and be distorted. However, because Queen Poise's soul was completely enveloped by the million-spirit demon flame, she was not hurt during the entire process. Queen Poise's body could still be seen in the center of the flame, and she was still sleeping soundly inside. This whole process required absolute trust, of course. The venomous queen needed to lower her guard, or she would definitely fail, and the consequences would be unimaginable. Without a doubt, Queen Poise had absolute trust in Yang Dingtian. When Yang Dingtian revived his master, he did the same thing. At that time, he asked Walingzi for help but was rejected. He had no choice but to risk his life and take an unprecedented risk. he used the million spirit demon flame to envelop the soul and used the soul assimilation art to extract the soul. In the huge meditation world, he searched for his master's broken soul. And so on and so forth. At that time, every segment was a narrow escape. However, Yang Dingtian's huge risk was a success. He revived his master and touched the door of the divine realm. Therefore, Yang Dingtian was not smart most of the time. However, at the crucial moment, he was decisive, bold, and wise. But this time, resurrecting poison Sha would be a piece of cake. There was no risk. After extracting Queen Poise's soul, the next step was to cross over from the spiritual world to the real world. Yang Dingtian woke him up. Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian opened his eyes and woke up. He opened his right hand. Sure enough, a flame gently lit up in his palm. Queen Poisa was still sleeping soundly in the center of the flame. From the spiritual world to the real world, energy transmission. This direction was actually similar to the Naga's exploration of the spiritual realm. Then, Yang Dingtian took out an energy jade box. Inside it was a soul condensed image. It was a kind of soul energy without an owner. Any broken soul, even if it only had a little bit of consciousness, as long as it entered the soul condensed image, it would instantly recover all its vitality. The demon spirit had killed countless lives in its life. Before killing a life, it would use the demon spirit eye to instantly lock onto the soul of the creature, and then explode it. Then, it would tear and devour the creature alive. Amidst the endless slaughter, these exploding souls, these souls that had been completely lost, had been completely destroyed. Little by little, they overflowed. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of soul fragments gathered together to form the soul condensed image. Therefore, the soul condensed image had incomparably powerful soul energy. Of course, Queen Poisa's soul didn't need the soul condensed image, because her soul didn't suffer any damage. Moreover, her soul was very powerful. However, Yang Dingtian felt that at least the soul condensed image wouldn't cause any harm. Whoosh! With lightning speed, Yang Dingtian directly injected Queen Poisa's soul into the soul condensed image. At the same time, Yang Dingtian quickly stripped Queen Poisa's soul of the million spirit demon fire's vengeful spirit. Throughout the entire process, there was not the slightest error. In an instant, Queen Poisa's soul entered the soul condensed image and completely occupied this ownerless spiritual energy. In an instant, Yang Dingtian could clearly feel that the light and shadow in the surrounding space suddenly distorted. It was as if the entire space suddenly shook. Although there were no intruders, the Lake of Lee Water Villa still instantly froze into ice. Then, the soul condensed image in front of him suddenly grew. In an instant, it turned into Queen Poisa's figure. Although she was still in a deep sleep, she had already revealed an incomparably powerful energy aura. In fact, her entire figure was emitting a bright and resplendent light. That kind of beauty made it impossible for people to look directly at her. At this moment, she should be a light and shadow, but she looked like a body that was emitting light. Queen Poisa had obtained the soul condensed image, and it had such a terrifying effect. The effect was much more astonishing than his master, Dongfang Minmi. Immediately, Yang Dingtian used countless vengeful spirits to wrap Poisa's soul's body, preventing her soul energy from leaking out. The following process was even simpler. He directly guided the soul into Queen Poisa's body. Yang Dingtian gently woke up the sleeping Poisa's soul and said, Sha, you can do the last step yourself. Return to your body. Queen Poisa opened her eyes and looked at everything around her in disbelief. She felt her incomparably powerful spiritual energy and first mischievously flew a few laps around Yang Dingtian. She even shuttled through Yang Dingtian's heart. Finally, she looked at her body in the energy jade coffin and said to Yang Dingtian in a tender voice, See you later. Whoosh! Then, she suddenly drilled into her body and disappeared into the air. Queen Poisa's body in the energy jade coffin first trembled violently, then remained motionless. After a long while, she slowly opened her eyes. She immediately wanted to speak and sit up, but she found that she couldn't speak or do anything. Don't worry. Yang Dingtian said. Your soul first needs to occupy your brain, then through the nerves, obtain control of your entire body. This will take a little time. Sure enough, in just a moment, Queen Poisa obtained control of her entire body. She sat up from the energy jade coffin and stretched. Then, the first thing she said after resurrecting shocked Yang Dingtian. Why is my body still wearing clothes? She said somewhat vexedly. Yang Dingtian was speechless. You don't like to wear clothes that much, the venomous queen said. I was still thinking of presenting myself to you after I resurrected. Yang Dingtian was speechless. Help me up. Poisa stretched out her jade-like hand and said in a tender voice. Yang Dingtian held her arm and felt that her entire body was soft. Not only did she seem to have no strength, but she also seemed to have no bones. What, you don't have any strength at all? Yang Dingtian asked. Yes, I still have a lot of strength, Queen Poisa said. However, I just want you to help me up. Yang Dingtian. Feel your sea of vital energy, and see what your cultivation is. Queen Poisa closed her beautiful eyes and used her divine sense to feel her mystic meridians and sea of vital energy. When she opened her eyes again, Queen Poisa revealed a look of complete disbelief. What's wrong? Yang Dingtian asked. Queen Poisa said. My cultivation has not only completely recovered, but it has also become stronger? Really? Yang Dingtian said in surprise. Of course. Queen Poisa flicked her sleeve lightly. Suddenly, a house 1,000 meters away was instantly reduced to ashes and dust. Yang Dingtian was shocked. This seemed to be stronger than his cultivation. If the 15th level is a semi-sage and the 20th level is a saint, then what level are you now? Yang Dingtian asked. The 17th level, about to break through to the 18th level. Queen Poisa said directly. Yang Dingtian said in surprise. Then what level were you before? The 16th level, Queen Poisa said. But after Shuang became a Naga, I continued to weaken and became a 9-star 9th level Grandmaster. Yang Dingtian was completely puzzled. How could her cultivation not only recover after sleeping for a few years, but also increase? How could there be such a good thing? After Queen Poisa was pleasantly surprised, she was not very surprised and said, Actually, this is very normal. Whether it is a Naga born from a mermaid or a sea snake, they have nothing to do with their mother. After they have completely transformed, they will return all their energy to their birth mother and pay interest, indicating that they have nothing to do with you from now on. So that's how it is. After Duga Shuang devoured the energy of the original evil spirit, she completely completed her transformation, so she returned all the energy to Poisa and gave a lot more. Therefore, not only did Poisa's cultivation recover, but she also broke through to the high 17th level. However, this was a good thing after all. Queen Poisa had broken through to the high 17th level, so Queen Hai Xian could not kill her at all. It was equivalent to another semi-sage expert in Yang Dingtian's lineup. The figure of the mermaid Queen Violets flashed in front of the two. She looked at Queen Poisa for a long time, then bowed sideways and said, Mermaid Queen Violets greets Queen Poisa. It was rare to see her so polite. It could be seen that the hierarchy of the underwater civilization was very strict. The Sea Snake clan or the Mermaid clan that gave birth to Naga had a higher status. It was the first time Queen Poisa saw violets. She immediately showed a surprised look and said, Your mermaid empire still exists? The Mermaid Queen said, Many thanks to Queen Medusa for showing mercy, so the mermaid empire still exists. Queen Poisa was stunned, then showed a trace of joy. Although the Mermaid clan and the Sea Snake clan did not like each other, it was still a happy thing to see the other civilization survive. The Mermaid Queen said, Queen Poisa, are you planning to look for the Naga Duga Shuang? Queen Poisa nodded and said, Yes. The Mermaid Queen said, But she has nothing to do with you now. There is no energy reaction between the two of you. It should be very difficult for you to find her. Queen Poisa said, I know, although I have nothing to do with Duga Shuang. But I am looking for her for Yang Dingtian, for the human countries. The Mermaid Queen nodded and said, I understand. I pay my respects to you. Then, the Mermaid Queen said to Yang Dingtian, Yang Dingtian, it is possible that we can't find Naga, so we have to make plans. You have to be thick-skinned. We will go to Wu Yu and ask for the Naga royalty's demon core. Yes, they had to make plans. If the Naga Duga Shuang could not be found, then the Naga royalty's sword spirit was the only way to defeat the World Extermination Army. Chapter 947. Yang Dingtian was a little embarrassed to take the initiative to ask for things from others. However, at this juncture of life and death, Yang Dingtian had no choice but to be thick-skinned. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had to make another trip to the Taboo Continent's sea area to ask Wu Jiu for the demon core of the Naga royalty. Originally, Queen Poisa should have gone to find Naga Shuang as soon as possible. However, she had just been resurrected and wanted to spend more time with Yang Dingtian, so she followed him. Little Tian, will you kill Hai Xian? Queen Poisa asked on the way to the Taboo Continent. Yang Dingtian was silent for a moment, then shook his head and said, I don't know. Queen Poisa said, Little Tian, I told you before to go directly to Shuang and not go to the Naga Empire. However, you mentioned before that after Queen Hai Xian ascended to the throne, she carried out a large-scale purge in the Naga Empire. My previous confidants are all gone, but they are not dead. Their situation is very tragic. In a while, I want to go to the Naga Empire and rescue them. Viper Z's situation was fine at first, and she was still by Queen Hai Xian's side. However, when Yang Dingtian went to the Naga Empire to rescue the Holy Valley Resistance Army, she was nowhere to be seen. A few years ago, when Yang Dingtian was imprisoned by Queen Hai Xian, it was Viper Z who came to rescue him. He did not know if Hai Xian had seen through her and was implicated. In short, whether it was Viper Mo or Viper Z, Yang Dingtian did not see them in the Naga Empire last time. Previously, Yang Dingtian could not rescue Hai Xian because he was not a match for her. Now, he had a saint and two half-saint powerhouses by his side. He could indeed rescue them. All right, after we part ways with Sect Master Wu Yu, I'll accompany you, Yang Dingtian said. No need. I can go alone. With my current cultivation, even if I can't defeat Hai Xian, I'm not afraid of her, said Queen Poisa. Yang Dingtian, I'm still worried about you going alone. A few hours later, Yang Dingtian arrived at the Forbidden Land Sea region and saw Wu Yu, Yao Li, and Bo Lu. Seeing Yang Dingtian return, Wu Yu asked with some surprise, Is something the matter? Yang Dingtian found it difficult to speak. Wu Yu was willing to help you, so you should be grateful. But now you're pushing your luck. You're actually asking for the most precious demon core, the Naga royalty. That's too much. In particular, would this decrease Sect Master Wu Yu's favorability towards him? Even though he and Wu Yu had the most intimate relationship. However, she didn't necessarily have deep feelings for him. Wu Yu had already made it clear that most of the time, she was just a bystander. Her feelings towards him were completely equivalent to a bystander's feelings towards the male lead of a TV series. Therefore, Yang Dingtian couldn't help but begin to think about how to phrase it. The Mermaid Queen couldn't stand it anymore and said bluntly, You have a demon core of the Naga royalty. If Yang Dingtian wants it, can you give it to him? Fuck, that's too direct, too rude. After Wu Yu heard this, her expression didn't show much anger. Instead, she asked, In the Empire of Darkness, the fatal blow released by your soul sword has something to do with the demon core of the Naga royalty, right? Yang Dingtian said honestly. Yes, in fact, when this demon core was in my hands, there was a very powerful and arrogant spiritual energy that poured into my brain and then into my soul sword. After Wu Yu heard this, she asked, Are you sure it's spiritual energy? Yang Dingtian nodded. Yes, it's definitely spiritual energy. It's like soul energy. Wu Yu's expression suddenly changed. It was obvious that she understood the significance of this. Then, she asked, Can you control the spiritual energy of the Naga royalty? Yang Dingtian shook his head. Not at all. In fact, It's extremely arrogant and almost never communicates with me. Last time in the Empire of Darkness, it was because it heard the sorrowful cry of the Naga Shuang that it launched the fatal blow to save the Naga Shuang. It has nothing to do with me. Wu Yu said. You don't have any way to communicate with it? Yang Dingtian shook his head. Not at all, Wu Yu said. Then you have to understand one thing. In the Empire of Darkness, the strength of the Naga royalty's sword soul might not have much to do with the demon core. The key is that its spiritual energy can directly evolve into offensive energy. This is completely epoch-making. It can even change the entire civilization of the Chaos World, or even reverse the destruction of the Chaos World. Yang Dingtian nodded and said, That's right. I only just understood this problem. In fact, I've been to New Naga before, the so-called ruins of the Naga Empire. Research in the spiritual domain there is the mission of the entire New Naga. Yang Dingtian had never mentioned this matter to Wu Yu. Immediately, her beautiful eyes brightened up as she said, New Naga Empire? Naga wasn't completely destroyed? Her words were full of shock and excitement. Today, there were only 2 Naga in the world. One was the Naga Shuang, and the other was the Medusa. Of course, there was one more now. It was the soul of the Naga royalty who had made a breakthrough in the spiritual domain. However, that was only 2.5. Hearing that there was still new Naga, Wu Yu was of course shocked. Yang Dingtian said, No, the ancient demigod Naga has been completely destroyed. My teacher, Shiwu Pyuyan, was looking for a way to save the world before the ancient Nirvana. He came to the Naga Empire and stayed there for more than 10 years. He analyzed the reason for the destruction of the world. It was because of the Naga's absolute greed for energy, which broke the energy balance of the world and led to the Nirvana. Facing the imminent destruction, all the Naga chose to self-destruct. They used their own energy to build a confinement space of more than 10,000 miles. It was completely isolated from the Chaos World. This confinement space was New Naga. Then, they transformed their descendants and gave birth to the next generation of Naga. The next generation of Naga? Wu Yu was puzzled. Yes, the next generation of Naga is no longer the Naga in the strict sense. Yang Dingtian said, The real demigod Naga only has one generation, which is the Sea Serpent clan. The Mermaid clan's propagators borrowed humans to give birth to the demigod Naga. The descendants of Naga and Naga are no longer the real Naga. After the real demigod Naga completely transformed, there are only 2 forms. The original form is the appearance of a fallen black dragon. After the transformation, it is a completely human appearance. The descendants of Naga begin to revert to their ancestors. They are not like dragons, but more like the Sea Serpent clan or the Mermaid clan. Wu Yu said, The next generation of Naga you saw in New Naga are very similar to the Mermaid clan and the Sea Serpent clan, right? Yes. Yang Dingtian said, They are far from being as powerful as the demigod Naga, but they also have an almost infinite lifespan. They are much more powerful than the Sea Serpent clan and the Mermaid clan, and certainly more powerful than humans. Wu Yu said, Go on. Yang Dingtian said, The ancient Naga Empire hoped to avoid the path of the Great Nirvana. So they created a confinement space and locked the next generation of Naga inside, forcing them to break through in the spiritual domain. Finally, they could break through the shackles, leave the confinement space, and create a new spiritual energy civilization. But 10,000 years have passed, and New Naga's research in the spiritual domain has never made a huge breakthrough. Wu Yu said, But the Naga royalty in your sword spirit has made a breakthrough in the spiritual domain, right? Yang Dingtian said, Yes, at least it has broken through to a very high level. So, I want to know who it is. Because it may represent the future direction of the chaotic world's civilization. Wu Yu was silent for a moment, and began to digest the meaning of the conversation with Yang Dingtian. She even felt her blood boil a little. As a bystander, what could be more shocking than changing the entire world, changing the entire civilization? Yang Dingtian, you are indeed the child of destiny, the male lead. Wu Yu suddenly said, I originally thought that Wentian would be the main lead, but in the end, his appearance was completely to pave the way for you. I have had this Naga royalty's demon core for a very long time. In fact, it doesn't belong to the Netherworld Sea. It was a gift from my father to my mother. Wu Yu's father was from the Silent Clan. The Silent Clan was an extremely intelligent clan that was lured into existence by the fallen Silver Dragon. But because they were too pessimistic and antisocial, lacking in desire, they were unable to become a half-god clan and were abandoned by the fallen Silver Dragon. Who would have thought that this Naga royalty's demon core actually had such an origin? Wu Yu continued. My mother gave this Naga royalty's demon core to the Little Western Paradise's High Priest Association for the sorcerers and wise ones to conduct research on it. In the end, after many years of research, there were no results. In the end, I was chosen to be the one to borrow the seed from the humans. In a fit of anger, I took away this Naga royalty's demon core. The Mermaid Queen couldn't help but ask, where is this demon core now? Are you willing to give it to Yang Dingtian? Of course I am willing to give it to him, Wu Yu said, because I am not greedy for it at all. I only want it to be of use. Then hurry up and take it out, the Mermaid Queen said. Wu Yu's eyes twitched slightly. It is no longer in my hands. What? Yang Dingtian immediately exclaimed. Wu Yu said, not long ago, the Little Western Paradise's High Priest Association requested me to return this demon core to them. At that time, I was no longer angry, so I returned it to the High Priest Association. Yang Dingtian's heart went cold. In fact, the worst outcome was falling into the hands of Eternal Shiwentian, the evil ways. Now that Yao Ming and the others had entered the Little Western Paradise, they must have spread the news about what happened in the Empire of Darkness. Therefore, Eternal Shiwentian must have known that Wu Yu had changed his position. He must have known about the fatal blow of the Naga royalty's sword spirit in the Empire of Darkness. Therefore, Eternal Shiwentian's first reaction was to obtain this Naga royalty's demon core. Yang Dingtian immediately asked, this demon core, will it fall into the hands of Eternal Shiwentian? Chairman, do you have the authority to directly ask for something from the High Priest Association? Wu Yu shook his head. Chairman does not have this authority. The High Priest Association's status is very high. In fact, this is an organization that does not care about worldly affairs and focuses on research. Its status in the Little Western Paradise is very high. Yang Dingtian, then is it possible for us to get this demon core from the High Priest Association? Wu Yu shook his head. My mother gave it to the High Priest Association, so I have no right to take it back. Of course, it is even more impossible to take it back by force. The High Priest Association studies the spiritual domain, the secret domain, and the martial domain. They are full of experts. Yang Dingtian, then what if the Speechless Clan goes to ask for it? Wu Yu's eyes narrowed, and then he said, actually, the founder of the High Priest Association was a Speechless Clan thousands of years ago. In this association, the Speechless Clan's status is very high. Moreover, the original owner of this demon core was originally a Speechless Clan member, so if the Speechless Clan goes to ask for it, the possibility of getting it is very high. Yang Dingtian immediately began to hesitate whether he should go to the Little Western Paradise's High Priest Association and ask for this Naga royalty's demon core. One must know that he was not a real Speechless Clan member. Moreover, Yong Shiwentian could expose his identity at any time. Is the High Priest Association far from Indu? Yang Dingtian asked. Very far, Wu Yu said. Okay, then I will take the risk and go to the Little Western Paradise's High Priest Association, Yang Dingtian said. Wu Qiong said, Eternally Wentian is extremely scheming. The moment he found out the truth, he immediately changed his mind. When he found out that you would go to the High Priest Association and ask for the Naga royalty's demon core. Therefore, it is very likely that he will set a trap for you and capture you in one fell swoop. You should know that the Temple of Annihilation is determined to get you. Yang Dingtian nodded. Wu Yu's worries were definitely there. Yong Shiwentian's scheming was even deeper than that of the Demon King Wentian in the Sky-span Imperial capital. Wu Yu said, however, if he wants to set a trap, it can't be in the High Priest Association. Because he can't offend the High Priest Association. You can conceal yourself, so it shouldn't be a problem for you to enter the association. More importantly, if you can get the High Priest Association's approval, then you won't have to fear Yong Shiwentian's trap. They might even send experts to escort you back to the human countries. Therefore, this is a risk. Wu Yu looked at Yang Dingtian and said, "The key is whether you can get the High Priest Association's approval as a member of the Speechless Clan." That's right, this was a risk. If he won, then he would get the Naga royalty's demon core. If he lost, then he might fall into Yong Shiwentian's hands. The key was whether this risk was worth it or not. Of course, if you want to go to the Little Western Paradise, I can accompany you. Wu Yu said, "You will be in the dark, and I will be in the light." Wu Yu's eyes flashed with excitement. She was clearly eager for adventure. Chapter 948. To be honest, Yang Dingtian was very hesitant at first. Because even if he got the Naga royalty's demon core, it might not change anything. Because whether it was Wu Yu's guess or his own guess, the fatal blow of the Naga royalty's sword spirit probably came from the spiritual energy of the Naga royalty, and not the energy of the soul sword. So, what would be the use of exchanging the soul sword for the Naga royalty's demon core? Of course, first of all, it would definitely be useful, because the energy contained in the Naga royalty's demon core was thousands of times more than that of the Millennium Owl. But even if there was a Naga royalty's demon core, it was hard to say whether it could connect with the spiritual energy of the Naga royalty. At this time, the spiritual energy of the Naga royalty was in the soul sword, but it had no intention of communicating with Yang Dingtian. It was completely arrogant to the extreme, and it didn't care to interact with Yang Dingtian at all. And in the future battle, would it help Yang Dingtian fight the enemy? It was basically a no. After all, last time in the Empire of Darkness, it was because of the Naga Shuang's sorrowful cry that it took action. But, if he got the Naga royalty's demon core, at least his soul sword would have incomparably powerful and abundant energy before he got the sea spirit crystal. Maybe the last fatal blow of the Naga royalty had exhausted all its spiritual energy, so it could be replenished with the demon core. The Naga Shuang had disappeared, and its whereabouts were unknown. But the Naga royalty's demon core clearly knew that it was in the Little Western Paradise's High Priest Association. Looking at Wu Yu's eager eyes, Yang Dingtian knew that if he didn't go because he was afraid of a trap, it would undoubtedly reduce his score in Wu Yu's heart. "Little Tian, don't go," Queen Poisa couldn't help but say. "The Little Western Paradise is too dangerous for you now." The mermaid's gaze was indifferent, but she still hoped that Yang Dingtian would go because she was very interested in the demon nucleus of the Naga royalty. From this, it could be seen that whether it was the Mermaid Queen or Wu Yu, their feelings for Yang Dingtian were very weak. She paid more attention to the matter than to Yang Dingtian. Only Queen Poisa was worried about the danger and did not want Yang Dingtian to go. Yang Dingtian thought for a while and said, "I still want to go." Wu Qiong said, "If you want to go, you must think of a way to convince the High Priest Association. If you don't have anything to show for it, then you might as well not go. It would be a waste if you go." Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "I should be able to do that." Wu Qiao said, "Good. You've been invisible since you entered Little Western Paradise. From the looks of it, it was as if I was the only one heading to the High Priest Association. This way, you'll have a good cover. Yong Shiwentian might stop me from taking the demon nucleus of the Naga royalty, but he can't do anything to me." Then Wu Yu said to the Mermaid Queen, "Queen Violets, before that, I'll need you to guard the gate of the human kingdom." The Mermaid Queen was a little dispirited because she could not take the risk, but she still agreed to guard the gate of the human kingdom. Then Yang Dingtian directly flew towards the depths of the Forbidden Continent's sea. If he went any further, he would enter the illusion of the Forbidden Continent and the Great Hall of Skulls. At this time, inside the Great Hall of Skulls, Yong Shiwentian closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in the center. There were a total of 4 martial saints around him. "Sir Chairman, are you sure Yang Dingtian will come?" a saint asked. Yongshi Wentian nodded and said, perhaps. If the demon nucleus of the Naga royalty is related to Yang Dingtian, then he will come. If not, then he won't come. If he comes, he will come with Wu Yu. The two of them, one in the light and one in the dark, will try to confuse me. Lady Wu Yu? The saint asked. If she comes, what should we do? Yongshi Wentian said, capture her and cripple her cultivation. That saint trembled violently and said, but she's your. Yongshi Wentian said, yes, but she has already betrayed us. Moreover, she doesn't care about her cultivation. Crippling her cultivation will only prevent her from making further mistakes. The saint-level expert said, very well, as you wish. Yongshi Wentian said, are you confident in capturing Yang Dingtian and Wu Yu? The saint said, we are 100% confident. After entering the illusion of the Forbidden Continent, there will be a period of confusion, even if it's very short. But it's more than enough to capture the two of them. You've worked hard. Yongshi Wentian closed his eyes and showed a trace of pain. Yang Dingtian and Wu Yu continued to fly towards the Forbidden Continent's sea region. After about 10,000 meters, they would enter the illusion of the Forbidden Continent. Once they entered the illusion, they would have already entered the Skull Hall. Whoosh! The two sped up and were about to rush into the Skull Hall. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's heart jumped. At the same time, Wu Yu's expression changed. She grabbed Yang Dingtian's hand and quickly retreated. Soon, the two retreated a few hundred miles. After completely retreating, the two looked at each other and inhaled a breath of cold air, fear lingering in their hearts. Because the two thought of the same question at almost the same time. If Yongshi Wentian guessed that Yang Dingtian was coming to the Little Western Paradise to ask for the Naga Royalty Demon Core, why would he set up an ambush at the High Priest Association? That was not his territory. There was only one best place to set up an ambush, and that was the Skull Hall. When everyone entered the Skull Hall, the first thing they entered was the illusion of the Forbidden Continent. Although they could quickly rush into the dark void, fly backward, and leave the illusion. But in the short illusion, the whole person was in a state of confusion, and there was no way to guard against it. As long as Yongshi Wentian set up an ambush here, he could easily capture them. Therefore, if Yongshi Wentian wanted to set up a trap, it must be in the Skull Hall. Then, Yang Dingtian rushing in just now was walking right into the trap. Give up on the Naga Royalty Demon Core for now. Wu Yu sighed and slowly said, take the initiative to establish a connection with the Naga Royalty spiritual power and the Soul Sword, and communicate with it further. Yang Dingtian did not directly answer her. Instead, he thought for a while and then said, Sect Leader Wu Yu, where is the High Priest Association? Mount Buzhou, Wu Yu said. Yang Dingtian was stunned. This was the same name as the giant mountain in China's ancient legends. Where is it? Yang Dingtian asked. It's floating, Wu Yu said. This giant mountain is floating in the void, completely independent of the Little Western Paradise. It's always moving, so it should be in the far east of the Little Western Paradise right now. Yang Dingtian remembered that when he was in the Silver Palace, he had read many books, including the records of Mount Buzhou. The Little Western Paradise was a piece of scattered land and mountains, floating on the sea, imprisoned by a special force field, not moving at all. Only Mount Buzhou was in the void, and it was always moving, revolving around the Little Western Paradise. Suddenly Yang Dingtian's brain moved. He quickly took out the parchment and paper from his spatial ring. In a very simple way, he drew a map of the Little Western Paradise. The Little Western Paradise was a very regular circle, and the void where Mount Buzhou was located was a square in the book. Yang Dingtian pointed at Mount Buzhou and said, This square shape of Mount Buzhou is always moving, and it's revolving around the Little Western Paradise, right? The whole process of movement is very regular, right? Wu Yu nodded. That's right, it's exactly 1 year, 1 circle. It sounded like the moon was revolving around the earth, and the earth was revolving around the sun. His eyes floated in the air and he closed his eyes, sinking into meditation and contemplation. Wu Yu stood on the side, waiting for him to think. Suddenly Yang Dingtian opened his eyes and said, I have a very, very strange idea. Wu Yu said. Go ahead. Yang Dingtian said. In fact, it's not that Mount Buzhou is revolving around the Little Western Paradise, but that the whole Little Western Paradise is revolving by itself, while Mount Buzhou is not moving at all. Therefore, it gives you the impression that Mount Buzhou is revolving around the Little Western Paradise. Wu Yu's beautiful eyes trembled. But from the Hall of Skulls to the Little Western Paradise, it's always in the same position. If the Little Western Paradise is revolving, then the position will change. Yang Dingtian said. No, the gate of Little Western Paradise in the Hall of Skulls is an energy gate, not a physical gate. This gate is just a symbolic gate, but it's equivalent to a spatial passage. Therefore, it will always be fixed in a certain position. Wu Yu said. If it's according to your guess, what does it mean? Yang Dingtian said. It means that Mount Buzhou doesn't belong to the Little Western Paradise. The whole Little Western Paradise is under the vast sea. Mount Buzhou, on the other hand, is completely empty. There is no snow in the Little Western Paradise, but Mount Buzhou is covered in snow all year round. Wu Yu said. And then? Yang Dingtian said. If Mount Buzhou doesn't belong to the Little Western Paradise, but it can enter the Little Western Paradise, that proves that Mount Buzhou is the only passage between the Little Western Paradise and the other planes. The gate of Little Western Paradise in the Hall of Skulls is a spatial gate, not a real physical passage. That proves that it's possible to pass through Mount Buzhou and enter the Little Western Paradise from another place. In other words, I can directly enter Mount Buzhou without going through the Hall of Skulls. Wu Yu suddenly felt her breathing quicken. She liked this the most, and she was infatuated with this kind of collision of wisdom. Especially when someone opened the door of knowledge that she never knew existed. Wu Yu gasped for breath. If your guess is correct, then where can I enter Mount Buzhou and enter the High Priest Association? Yang Dingtian closed his eyes, and immediately formed a three-dimensional image in his mind. The torn space was a product of the great nirvana of the last era. It hadn't become the Dark Realm, but it was more miserable than the torn continent in the Little Western Paradise. Moreover, the torn space was three-dimensional. It was connected to the Dark Realm, the Dongli Grassland, and the Yin-Yang Mirror. Then, it was very likely to be connected to the Little Western Paradise. Yang Dingtian could even make a bolder guess. The so-called Mount Buzhou was just an escape from the torn space. It didn't belong to the Little Western Paradise, nor was it a torn space, but a combination of the two. Mount Buzhou wasn't as lucky as the Little Western Paradise, but it wasn't as miserable as the torn space. Yes, if Yang Dingtian's guess was correct. Mount Buzhou was the only passage between the torn space and the Little Western Paradise, and it was the product of the two spaces. If Yang Dingtian's guess was correct, Mount Buzhou should be connected to the torn space. Yang Dingtian even began to do a lot of calculations, guesses, and compositions in his mind. In the end, he concluded that if the torn space was also a sphere with a diameter of tens of thousands of miles, then the entrance to Mount Buzhou should be at the extreme of the southwest corner of the torn space. Of course, it could also be the extreme of the northwest corner. Because, regarding the location of the Little Western Paradise, Yang Dingtian couldn't completely confirm whether it was higher or lower. Yang Dingtian opened his eyes again and spoke to Wu Yu. Sect Patriarch Wu Yu, I am going to tear open the spatial zone. If my bold conjecture is true, then I will be able to find the entrance to Mount Buzhou High Priest Association. Wu Yu said. If you succeed, do you know what it means? Yang Dingtian. It means that I've found the second entrance to the Little Western Paradise. Wu Yu nodded. You should know how great the significance of this is. No, it's far more than that, Yang Dingtian said. I've even grasped a direct method to destroy the Little Western Paradise. Wu Yu's complexion changed. Yang Dingtian had opened another door that she didn't know about. Immediately, her eyes lit up. At this moment, Yang Dingtian deeply felt that Wu Yu's indifference and calmness actually hit a crazy soul. After hearing Yang Dingtian talk about destroying the Little Western Paradise, she felt shock and curiosity. She wasn't worried about the fate of the Little Western Paradise. After all, she also belonged to the Little Western Paradise. Tell me. Wu Yu felt that her voice was trembling. Yang Dingtian. After the Little Western Paradise was torn apart by the Great Cataclysm, its energy is in a very abnormal range. It's constantly rotating. Perhaps it's a kind of self-adjustment to prevent the continent from further tearing. But in short, its balance can't be separated from the support of the torn space, and Mount Buzhou is the only passage between the two spaces. It's the key to Little Western Paradise's energy balance. Once Mount Buzhou is destroyed, the entire Little Western Paradise's energy balance will be completely destroyed, and the Little Western Paradise will be destroyed in a very short time. That's crazy. Wu Yu felt that her whole body was trembling. Then, she directly pounced on Yang Dingtian and kissed him fiercely on the lips. After a long time, she let go of Yang Dingtian. Take me there and prove it. If your point of view is correct, then your wisdom has convinced me. Maybe I won't be a bystander anymore and will completely stand on your side. Yang Dingtian was shocked. Wu Yu's curiosity and exploration of the unknown was even crazy. Her standpoint didn't come from justice or evil, but from the exploration of the unknown. Let's go, I'll prove it to you, Yang Dingtian said. Immediately, Yang Dingtian transmitted a message to Poisa and the Mermaid Queen. Then, he and Wu Yu directly flew in the direction of the torn space. Chapter 949. Just as Yang Dingtian and Wu Yu were about to head to the Dongli Grassland's endless sea and enter the spatial tear, suddenly, Yang Dingtian remembered that Wu Yu couldn't watch this because she couldn't enter the spatial tear. The spatial tear created by Yang Dingtian couldn't pass through creatures with higher cultivation than him. Its energy level was limited. And Wu Yu's cultivation was much higher than Yang Dingtian's. Thus, Yang Dingtian told her about this matter. Wu Yu's beautiful face was filled with disappointment and dejection. To her, this was a moment of miracle, but she couldn't personally witness it. It was truly regretful. Immediately, she had an intense impulse to reduce her cultivation to the same level as Yang Dingtian. Unfortunately, she couldn't do it. Otherwise, she would really do it just to see this miraculous scene. AI. Wu Yu sighed. Since that's the case, I don't need to follow you. I'll continue to guard the human kingdom's gate. Then, she said, why don't you record the whole process with an image jade and bring it back for me to see? I'm sorry, Yang Dingtian said. Why didn't your cultivation surpass mine? Wu Yu said regretfully. I want to, Yang Dingtian said. Thus, Yang Dingtian and Wu Yu returned to the human kingdom's gate. The Mermaid Queen teased. Why aren't you going? Yang Dingtian explained. At this time, Queen Poisa said, since the human kingdom's gate is still guarded by Sect Master Wu Yu, and little Tian has to pass through the Naga Empire, then I'll go with him. Yang Dingtian didn't feel at ease leaving Queen Poisa alone in the Naga Empire. He immediately looked at the Mermaid Queen. The Mermaid Queen said, All right, I owe you. I'll accompany her, okay? Then, the Mermaid Queen looked at Poisa and asked, Can we kill people in the Naga Empire? Yes, as long as they are enemies, we can kill them all, Queen Poisa said. Of course, the most important thing is to save them. These words immediately caused Yang Dingtian to be in a daze. Queen Poisa was usually too innocent and kind. In front of Yang Dingtian, she was a charming little girl. Therefore, Yang Dingtian was instinctively worried about her going to the Naga Empire. However, he had forgotten. The troubles of the Naga Empire did not start with Queen Hyaxian, but with Queen Poisa. When Poisa established the Snake Men Empire, the powerful defensive line was built on the bones of the half-human race. She acted gentle and charming in front of him, but don't forget that she was also the queen of the Naga Empire who killed people like flies. Therefore, Wu Yu, Yaoli, and Bola remained in the Taboo Continent's sea region to guard the entrance to the human kingdom, preventing the fox demons from entering the Little Western Paradise. As for Yang Dingtian, Poisa, and the Queen of the Mermaid Empire, they headed to the Dongli Grassland, the Naga Empire. In less than a day, the three of them flew to the sky above the Naga Empire. The terrifying defensive line of the Naga Empire was more or less completed. The entire Naga Empire was surrounded by a huge city wall that was a few hundred meters tall. On this defensive line, there were more than 10 million half-human race soldiers stationed. This should be the largest defensive line in history. At least, Yang Dingtian's human kingdom did not have such a shocking defensive line. In the hearts of Queen Poisa and Queen Haixian, this defensive line should be indestructible. In particular, Queen Haixian hoped that this defensive line would become the basis for her to conquer the world. However, in front of the Empire of Darkness's Legion of Doom, this defensive line was like a child's toy castle. The Legion of Doom's Dark Dragon could easily break through and destroy it. In front of the Empire of Darkness, even the human kingdoms could not withstand a single blow. The so-called Armageddon War was not important, let alone a mere Naga Empire. The Demon King Wentian only had one goal, which was to conquer all the planes and defeat the God of Chaos. They flew to the sky above the Naga Empire's capital and saw this incomparably huge pyramid. Yang Dingtian said, "Sha, I'll go with you and help you save Viper Mo, Viper Z, and the others." Queen Poisa shook her head and said, "No need. My cultivation alone is enough, not to mention that I have a sage by my side." Yang Dingtian said, "I'll go with you. It's more reassuring." Queen Poisa looked at Yang Dingtian for a while, then bit her lip and said in a low voice, "Little Tian, I don't want you to go." Yang Dingtian was taken aback and said, Why? Queen Poisa hesitated for a long time and said, "I don't want you to see my vicious side. So that's why. This is really..." "Then okay," Yang Dingtian said. "Then be careful. I'm going to the endless sea east of the Holy Valley." Queen Poisa nodded vigorously, then floated in place and waited for Yang Dingtian to leave. Yang Dingtian immediately flew to the east and soon disappeared from Queen Poisa's sight. The venomous queen and the mermaid queen glanced at each other. They could see the cruel flames in each other's eyes. "What's the point of pretending in front of her like this?" the mermaid queen said. "You are a vicious person. Why do you have to act like a charming little woman?" Queen Poisa said. "I didn't pretend well? I've always been like this." With that, she whistled and flew down to the pyramid in the imperial capital, turning into a stream of light. Then, the mermaid queen also flew down. Obviously, the imperial capital of the Serpentine Empire might be facing a disaster. Yang Dingtian continued to fly to the east, flying. A few hours later, he arrived at the easternmost holy valley of the Dongli grassland. Originally, there were hundreds of thousands of half-human rebels living in the holy valley. But now, the holy valley was already in ruins. All the houses, farmlands, and forests were destroyed by the Serpentine Empire. Even the entire valley was dug 3 feet deep. Sighing slightly, Yang Dingtian continued to fly forward and entered the endless sea. This endless sea was still so illusory and beautiful. It looked completely boundless, more than 10,000 miles and 100,000 miles. But who knew that the real sea was less than half a mile, and the rest was just constantly overlapping? Yang Dingtian flew a few hundred meters away and then dived into the sea for a few hundred meters. The depth of the sea was also fake. It was completely endless overlapping. In fact, Yang Dingtian was already at the absolute edge of this world. In the water, Yang Dingtian used the dark mystic flame to create a dark vortex and a black hole to isolate a space. Then, in the isolated space, he used the mystic flame's special frequency, special energy attribute, and energy level to hit it with extreme speed. Suddenly, the isolated space was torn apart, and a beautiful spatial door was born inside. Yang Dingtian jumped into the spatial door. He felt a slight chill and entered the familiar torn space again. Yang Dingtian realized that the scene he entered was different from a few months ago. The huge rock that Yang Dingtian stepped on when he entered was gone. This further proved Yang Dingtian's point. The torn space was also constantly rotating. It was still so desolate inside. The entire tens of thousands of miles of torn space was filled with floating huge rocks that were always moving. Other than the huge rocks, there was nothing else. It was tens of thousands of miles wide and up and down. This was a completely three-dimensional space. In Yang Dingtian's mind, he was once again making meticulous calculations. Then, he flew to the south first. Yang Dingtian's entry point was actually the end of the torn space in the west, where it was connected to the Dongli grassland. But the torn space was in the shape of a sphere, so it was difficult to describe the direction. Yang Dingtian kept flying to the south, and then calculated the distance between the Little Western Paradise and the Dongli grassland. Of course, in fact, Yang Dingtian didn't know whether this was significant or not. Although the entrance to the Little Western Paradise was in the Great Hall of Skulls in the Taboo Continent's sea area, it didn't mean that the Little Western Paradise was there. Of course, strictly speaking, the location of the Great Hall of Skulls could also be the location of the Little Western Paradise. After all, the entrance to this plane was in the Great Hall of Skulls. The linear distance between the Dongli grassland and the Great Hall of Skulls should be about 38,000 miles. Yang Dingtian whistled as he flew and passed by countless floating boulders along the way. After a few hours, Yang Dingtian flew 38,000 miles and arrived at the location calculated in his mind. This was indeed the edge of the torn space. Yang Dingtian continued to fly forward, but there were no longer any floating boulders. There was only a void. However, this place looked completely ordinary, and didn't look like the connection between two planes. Yang Dingtian tried to create a space door and then pass through it. However, he was still in the torn space. This proved that this place didn't connect to another plane. Could it be that I was wrong? Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and thought for a long time. Soon, he understood that his guess might not be wrong. The reason why the connection wasn't here was because his reference point was the Great Hall of Skulls. The door to Little Western Paradise in the Great Hall of Skulls was the entrance to the Little Western Paradise world. However, this didn't mean that Mount Buzhou would be here. That's right, in the Little Western Paradise's continuous rotation, Mount Buzhou might be on the same vertical line as the door to Little Western Paradise, but they weren't on the same horizontal line. One was higher, and the other was lower. Moreover, if Yang Dingtian's guess was correct, and Mount Buzhou connected the torn space to Little Western Paradise, then the energy fluctuations there would be very intense. Of course, Yang Dingtian's guess was correct. The place where the torn space connected to the Empire of Darkness, the energy fluctuations there were also extremely intense. Immediately, Yang Dingtian released countless million spirit demonic fire wraiths. Then, he flew continuously in the thousands of miles around the end of this place. He flew to the left for thousands of miles, then to the right for thousands of miles, then to the west, and then to the east. He kept flying and searching. After flying for more than 20 hours, he had already flown tens of thousands of miles. However, the countless wraiths didn't move at all. Yang Dingtian started to doubt himself. Could his guess be wrong? No, Yang Dingtian felt that his theory wasn't wrong. Especially since the theory of the constant rotation of the torn space had been confirmed. However, Yang Dingtian's doubts didn't last for long. Because a few hundred miles ahead, he saw a ball of distorted light. He immediately flew towards this ball of distorted light at full speed. Soon, he arrived at the ball of light. That's right, Yang Dingtian's theory was correct. Because this ball of distorted light suddenly shot out an incomparably huge energy channel, directly rushing out of the torn space, connecting to a certain place outside. This distorted light was actually the starting point of the energy channel. Yang Dingtian roughly estimated that this energy channel was about a cylindrical shape with a diameter of more than 400 miles. This energy channel was connected to the Little Western Paradise. Therefore, according to theory, one could directly follow this energy channel and enter the Little Western Paradise, entering Mount Buzhou. However, Yang Dingtian would definitely not do that, and no one would do that. The energy of this channel was incomparably huge. Any life that entered would probably be instantly crushed. Yang Dingtian chose the edge closest to the energy channel and then released a space door here. Suddenly, He jumped. Whoosh! Suddenly, his body had a mysterious reaction. His eyes lit up. Around him was a void, and in the distance, there was an incomparably huge snow mountain. Yang Dingtian succeeded. Mount Buzhou was there, and the High Priest Association of Little Western Paradise was there. Chapter 950. After leaving the torn space, the huge energy channel that shot out from it disappeared. All that could be seen was a complete void, a void that neither the sky nor the ground could be seen. This place was still very far from Little Western Paradise, at least a few thousand miles away. The void was filled with light and shadows, so he couldn't see the shadow of Little Western Paradise at all. All he could see was this huge mountain in front of him. Yang Dingtian couldn't even describe how big it was. The mountain spanned nearly 1,000 miles. The height was far from tens of thousands of meters. It was even higher. It felt like it pierced into Cloud Heaven's city and pierced through the sky. Looking up, he couldn't see the top. This was a desolate mountain. There wasn't a single green leaf or red flower. Below, there were desolate black boulders, at least a few thousand meters. Further up, the snow got thicker and thicker. Towards the end, it was completely covered by snow. Therefore, this was also an incomparably huge snow mountain. Desolate, lonely, arrogant, but full of beauty. Yang Dingtian entered stealth mode and flew towards the huge mountain in front of him. After about 1,000 miles, Yang Dingtian arrived at the foot of the huge mountain. At this moment, there was nothing else in his field of vision. There was only this huge mountain in front of him. Of course, it was easy for Yang Dingtian to fly up. However, he thought that the High Priest Association would definitely have a weird habit of wanting to be respected by others. Therefore, if he flew up, they would definitely ignore him. He had to climb up himself. Therefore, Yang Dingtian gave up on flying and even gave up on using celestial qi. He obediently used his hands and feet to climb up. This huge mountain didn't have a path. The steepness couldn't be described with words. Yang Dingtian didn't use celestial qi or fly, so it was more difficult for him to climb. After a full 4 hours, he finally reached the exposed area of the huge boulder below. As he went up, the snow started to thicken. Yang Dingtian continued climbing. The higher he went, the thicker the snow and the stronger the wind. In the end, the snow had even exceeded the height of a human. It was even more difficult to climb up. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian really wanted to give up. It was too difficult to directly use profound qi to fly. However, Yang Dingtian gritted his teeth and persevered. After a full day and night, Yang Dingtian had climbed 20,000 meters above sea level, which was more than 2 Mount Komalangmas. However, they were not even halfway up the mountain. Another day and night passed. Yang Dingtian climbed another tens of thousands of meters, but he still didn't reach the top. Yang Dingtian had never been so tired before. In the end, the depth of the snow was more than 10 meters. It was completely buried. Even a battle with a half-saint expert was not as tiring as this. A dignified half-saint expert actually felt like he was about to collapse. They climbed for another 2 days and 2 nights. Finally, when Yang Dingtian was almost numb from all the climbing, he suddenly raised his head. There was nothing in front of him. He had already reached the peak. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian felt a sense of heroism. He didn't need to fly or use profound qi. He really conquered this tens of thousands of meters tall mountain with just his body. At this moment, Yang Dingtian was completely stunned by the beautiful scenery in front of him. Less than 1,000 miles ahead was the Little Western Paradise. It was really, really beautiful. It was like a painting. This place was only 1,000 miles away from the Little Western Paradise. From this height, he could see more than 1,000 miles of Little Western Paradise. Although he couldn't see any houses, he could vaguely see the city, the river, and the mountains. And Yang Dingtian's guess was right. The entire Little Western Paradise was slowly rotating. Of course, those who didn't understand would also think that Mount Buzhou was rotating. Yang Dingtian was intoxicated by the scenery of this infinitely dangerous peak for a while. Then, he was puzzled. Where was the High Priest Association? There wasn't one at the top of the mountain. But who told you that you could find the High Priest Association by climbing to the top of the mountain? Yang Dingtian's way of thinking was truly too childish. Thus, Yang Dingtian started to recall the records in the books. But for some reason, there wasn't any book that recorded the location of the High Priest Association. This was cheating. Could it be that he had to search the entire mountain? The span of this mountain was close to 1,000 miles. The circumference was at least a few thousand miles. If he still relied on his legs to search, then it would take at least a few months. But where did he have the ability to do that? Maybe in a few days, the Temple of Annihilation would send a letter of challenge, and the World Extermination War would begin. But he had used his legs to climb up with much difficulty. He couldn't possibly break the rules and start flying all over the mountain to search. Where in the world was this damned High Priest Association? This was just the beginning. Then, Yang Dingtian discovered another very, very bad thing. He didn't seem to have transformed. He didn't turn into the Silent Tribe. He was still in Yang Dingtian's appearance. As long as he entered the special energy environment of the Little Western Paradise, he would directly transform into the Silent Tribe. But Yang Dingtian didn't transform here. Yang Dingtian couldn't do that. Previously in the Mermaid Empire, he only needed to carve a few imprints to disguise himself as the Demon Eel Tribe. The Silent Tribe's appearance was very strange. Yang Dingtian really couldn't disguise himself as them. And Yang Dingtian felt that since the High Priest Association was so powerful, they should know that he had entered Buzhou Mountain. They might have already seen him. So, if he transformed again, it would be equivalent to deceiving them. So, should he use his true appearance? After deciding to use his true appearance, Yang Dingtian had to decide how to find the High Priest Association. It was impossible to rely on his own 2 legs to find them. It was also impossible to fly all over the mountain. So, the only way was to shout, "Guests are here! Invite the High Priest Association to come and meet them!" But this mountain spanned 1,000 miles. Although Yang Dingtian was a half-step sage, it was still difficult for his voice to travel 1,000 miles. Of course, there was another way. He could use the mystic fire lightning to create a huge lightning bolt that was a few hundred miles long. This dazzling light was like a nuclear explosion. No matter where the High Priest Association was, it would be difficult not to see it. But if the High Priest Association could see it, the Little Western Paradise could also see it. Yang Dingtian didn't want the Little Western Paradise to know that he had come to the High Priest Association. In the end, Yang Dingtian thought of a way. He didn't make a sound, but it was enough to let everyone in the mountain know. He pulled out a soul sword that was close to the Emperor grade and stabbed it deep into the mountain. Then, an incomparably powerful energy burst out, creating a huge vibration. Yang Dingtian carefully controlled the energy frequency and rhythm of the soul sword. This was very dangerous. As expected, the resonance had already begun. The countless accumulated snow began to tremble in an orderly manner. Yang Dingtian increased the energy. Instantly, countless accumulated snow began to dance and tremble. Yang Dingtian had to be very careful. He couldn't cause a huge avalanche at once. This would anger the High Priest Association. Under Yang Dingtian's control, the accumulated snow on Mount Buzhou began to tremble violently. Countless accumulated snow fluttered as if it had begun to dance violently. The entire Mount Buzhou let out a low, loud sound. The so-called low sound meant that it was very soft and not intense. The so-called loud sound meant that it could spread throughout the entire Mount Buzhou. This was Yang Dingtian's greeting gift. How to control the resonance of the accumulated snow to cause the entire Mount Buzhou to tremble loudly without causing an avalanche? This was very, very smart and very difficult. Even a sage couldn't make the entire Mount Buzhou tremble and make a sound. Yang Dingtian used this method to prove that he was qualified to meet the High Priest Association. At this time, the entire Mount Buzhou's snow dance had reached its climax. Countless accumulated snow had shot dozens of meters into the sky and then carefully fell down layer by layer. The entire scene was so shocking that it couldn't be described with words. However, the people from the High Priest Association still didn't appear. Yang Dingtian stopped the trembling of the soul's sword. Because if it continued, it would cause an earth-shattering avalanche. The people from the High Priest Association didn't appear, but there was a reaction. A gust of cold wind blew. In Yang Dingtian's ears, there was a dense whistling sound. Swoosh! The sea breeze blew fiercely through the accumulated snow, instantly leaving dense marks on the ground. When Yang Dingtian saw these dense marks, he immediately felt incomparably familiar, and also incomparably intimate and excited. Because this was the most primitive code of the martial arts civilization. It was also the so-called threshold of the divine realm. However, at this time, the High Priest Association was using this code to express their meaning and not to write some kind of mystic skill or martial technique. Yang Dingtian's interpretation of the martial arts civilization's primitive code had already reached a certain level. The code in front of him was still very, very simple. Where did you come from? Although it was simple, there were only a few people in this world who could answer it. Because there were only a few people who could recognize the martial arts civilization's primitive code. Of course, if they couldn't recognize the martial arts civilization's primitive code, they wouldn't be qualified to meet the people from the High Priest Association. Yang Dingtian controlled the soul sword and used the vibration frequency to write the primitive code and said, "From the opposite side of the Little Western Paradise." When this answer came out, the entire mountain suddenly trembled. Without a doubt, this answer was incomparably shocking and even horrifying. Because in history, only through the Little Western Paradise could enter Mount Buzhou. And the Little Western Paradise's entrance to Mount Buzhou was sealed and guarded by the High Priest. Without permission, no one could enter. Now, someone actually said that they came from the other side of the Little Western Paradise. This brought an unprecedented shock to the High Priest Association. Therefore, what followed was a long silence. After a long time, the ice and snow on the ground gradually condensed into a figure. It faced Yang Dingtian and said, "Guests, please follow me." Then, these ice and snow figures began to move forward. Yang Dingtian immediately chased after it. Chapter 951. The figure made of ice and snow walked very quickly, and Yang Dingtian followed closely behind. He kept walking down, and down. He walked for tens of thousands of meters. He arrived at the center of the mountain. In a completely inconspicuous place, a gust of wind blew past. Suddenly, the thick snow was blown away, and a few hundred meters of snow was lifted, revealing a dark stone door. "You can push the door open and enter," the figure made of ice and snow said. Then, the figure dissipated and turned back into ice and snow. Yang Dingtian looked at the stone door in front of him. He had passed through many doors. There was the black hole door of the Third Dark Realm, the space door of the Skull Hall, and the dark door of the Mermaid Empire. In short, each of these doors was more mysterious than the last. There was another door in front of him. This sect belonged to Little Western Paradise's most powerful and transcendent power. Therefore, this door should be very mysterious as well. Then, how should he enter? Should he use his celestial chi or some intelligence? After thinking for a while, Yang Dingtian still could not come up with a plan. He could not help but go forward to feel it, and push it slightly. Then, the door opened. This was a very, very ordinary stone door. There was nothing mysterious about it. It was just a little heavy, about a few 100,000 kilograms. After pushing the door open, Yang Dingtian walked in. It was very dark inside. Yang Dingtian wanted to use his celestial fire to light up the place, but he was afraid that it would be rude, so he walked in the dark. Inside, there was a dark stone cavern. Yang Dingtian kept going deeper and deeper, and deeper and deeper. He went for tens of thousands of meters. Finally, the cave passage ended, and he arrived at a relatively large hall. Inside, there was only a very, very weak flame that brought some light to the entire cavern hall. The entire hall was about a few hundred square meters, and there were simple stone stools on top of it. Then, there was nothing else. Moreover, there was not a single person inside. Yang Dingtian bowed and said, "Greetings to all the sages." Not long after, the sound of footsteps was finally heard. Then, a figure holding a candle walked out. Under the dim candlelight, he could vaguely make out the silhouette of this person's body. It was the figure condensed from ice and snow just now. "Why are you here? Do you want to look up information, visit a high priest, or do you have some other purpose?" the figure asked. At this moment, she opened her mouth to speak. Only then did Yang Dingtian notice that this was a woman. However, perhaps because she had been lonely for too long, she had forgotten her gender, so her voice sounded a little gender-neutral. Moreover, her entire body was covered in a loose gray robe made of coarse cloth, making it hard to see the curves of her body. Looking at the scene in front of him, Yang Dingtian said in disbelief, "This is the High Priest Association of Little Western Paradise?" The woman nodded. "Yes." After that, she stopped talking and waited quietly for Yang Dingtian to tell her the purpose of his visit. Yang Dingtian was indeed shocked. The High Priest Association of Little Western Paradise, in terms of status, was perhaps even higher than the Silver Palace Council. Logically speaking, no matter if it was a jade palace or a paradise on earth, it should be here. But in reality it was very poor, with only a few stone cushions. This was probably the most simple place Yang Dingtian had ever seen. Suddenly, he could not help but feel a sense of respect in his heart. After thinking for a while, Yang Dingtian decided to tell the truth. "I need a demon core of Naga royalty. I heard that it is in the High Priest Association of Little Western Paradise." After saying that, Yang Dingtian could not help but regret that he was a little rash. If the other party was in cahoots with the Little Western Paradise Council, then Yang Dingtian would not even know how he died. However, Yang Dingtian was a very emotional person. He was instinctively willing to believe in others, and also willing to believe in beautiful things. After Yang Dingtian spoke, he could not help but hold his breath, waiting for the other party's response. "Yes, but there is a demon core of Naga royalty in our hands." The other party did not keep him in suspense, and directly admitted. Then she said, "But I'm sorry, we can't lend this thing out." Just like that, the High Priest Association directly rejected him. All of a sudden, Yang Dingtian was at a loss. He did not know how to continue. When facing such a poor and destitute High Priest Association, it was impossible for Yang Dingtian to threaten them. Suddenly Yang Dingtian bowed deeply and said, "Elder, this demon core of Naga royalty is very, very important to me and the entire human country. May I ask if your association can be magnanimous?" The woman said, "Mr. Human, in fact, our association does not receive guests at all. We have completely sealed off the passage from Little Western Paradise to Buzhou Mountain. But you actually came from the opposite side, so this is fate. So if you have any questions that you want to ask, or if you want to borrow any books, we are willing to help. Even if you want to visit a master, as long as he is not meditating, you can also do so. But if you want to take away something, please forgive us for not being able to do so." Yang Dingtian: "I know, this demon core is very precious. My request is indeed very rude." The woman said, "Mr. Human, in fact, this has nothing to do with how precious it is. Our association has decided that we will not interfere or participate in anything in the outside world. And the things that flow out from here will definitely have an impact on the outside world. So, we have set the rule that nothing is allowed to enter the outside world." Yang Dingtian said bitterly, "Is there no other way?" The woman was silent for a moment and said, "Unless everyone in the High Priest Association participates in a vote. If more than 80% of the people agree, we can change this rule. But mister, our last vote was a few hundred years ago. Moreover, most of our members are meditating. You are also a wise man. Being disturbed in your meditation is a very, very serious matter. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian was really at his wit's end. If the other party's attitude was arrogant and strict, Yang Dingtian would have been somewhat demanding. Now that the other party was so indifferent and had such a kind attitude, Yang Dingtian really did not know what to do. So, the whole place suddenly became quiet. Yang Dingtian did not know how to continue his request, and the other party did not seem to have any intention of speaking. Was he going to come here for nothing? Was he still going to look for the Naga Shuang? Yang Dingtian finally said with difficulty, "Elder, if I say that this demon core is related to the life and death of the human countries, can I move all of you?" The woman was silent for a long time and said, "Mister, I really want to say that I want to feel pity. But in fact, we don't eat, drink, and don't speak. We spend all our time meditating. So, whether it is pity or hate, it is a luxury for us. I am very, very sorry. Yang Dingtian, if the whole Little Western Paradise is involved in this great destruction. The current president of the Little Western Paradise's parliament has already been possessed by the Dark Lord of evil ways in the human countries. Can I move all of you?" The woman was silent for a long time and then said, "Mister, in fact, we have interfered in some things in the past, but the result was worse. Maybe what we want to do is more important and meaningful than interfering in the outside world. So, I am very, very sorry." Yang Dingtian's words had reached the limit. It was related to the life and death of the Little Western Paradise, but the other party's heart was still as calm as an ancient well. Yang Dingtian was really at his wit's end. Using martial arts? What a joke. This was the place with the most saint-level experts in the world. It could be said that if it was an ownerless object, and he had to fight for it by force, Yang Dingtian would not be polite. And if it was in the hands of the enemy, Yang Dingtian would not be polite either. But now, it was an ownerless object. And the owner of this object was a group of very pure, simple, and noble people. If the other party was not willing to lend it to him, then what else could Yang Dingtian do? Whether it was by force or by plotting, it was very disgraceful. And even if he got the demon core of the Naga royalty, it might not change the situation. He still could not form any connection with the soul of the Naga royalty. It was just a slight possibility. Then maybe the only way was to find the Naga Shuang? Yang Dingtian felt bitter in his heart, but he still bowed deeply and said, "Thank you for your hospitality, elder." The woman nodded and said, "I am very sorry for not letting you have your way. Do you have a way to go back? Do you need me to send you back to the human countries through the Little Western Paradise?" "Thank you, elder. I have a way to go back." Yang Dingtian bowed and then turned to leave. Yang Dingtian came to this world. Among the most precious qualities, perseverance and willpower were one of them. It had always been his creed to not give up. No matter what he did, he would persevere until the end. But that was when he was in the right. But when he was in the wrong, it was difficult to persevere until the end. Just like in the real world, you could work hard to get through difficulties, or you could borrow money to get through difficulties. But once the borrowing was rejected, it would be difficult to persist until the end. You had to borrow money. Just like that, Yang Dingtian bade farewell to the woman and then walked out. And throughout the whole process, the other party did not even ask him how he tore through space. This kind of carefree attitude was really extreme. Meanwhile, that woman stood on the spot and sent Yang Dingtian off with her gaze. Just like that, a little depressed, Yang Dingtian left the High Priest Association. Once again, he came to the huge stone door at the entrance. He pushed it open slightly and was about to walk out. A cold wind blew in from outside, causing Yang Dingtian to instantly remember that there was something he had not done yet. So, he quickly walked back. When he entered the cave hall again, the woman was about to leave with the candle in her hand. Seeing Yang Dingtian return, she was not angry and only asked, "Mister, is there anything else? I was in a daze just now and forgot to ask a question." Yang Dingtian said, "A friend asked me to ask, is Nero really dead?" When these words came out, the body of the woman who had been as calm as an ancient well suddenly trembled. "Nero! Wu Yu's mother, the former female speaker of the Little Western Paradise, the number one beauty of the Little Western Paradise. She successfully seduced the Silent Tribe and gave birth to a mixed-blood descendant of the Silent Tribe and the Fox Tribe, which was Wu Yu. Because the Silent Tribe broke their precepts and felt that they had fallen, they committed suicide. Not long after, the female speaker also died, leaving Wu Yu alone. When Nera died, Wu Yu was still young, but she had always been suspicious of her mother's death. Because the Fox Tribe's life was very long, and her mother did not seem like someone who would commit suicide. Moreover, the offspring of the Silent Tribe would not cause the death of the Fox Tribe, right? So, Wu Yu had always been suspicious of this point. But before this, she had always been stubborn and did not ask. A few years ago, when the High Priest Association's people went to Silver City to ask for the Naga Royalty Demon Core, Wu Yu saw the people from the High Priest Association and did not ask. But now, Wu Yu had become a complete woman, and her mentality had changed a little. So when Yang Dingtian left the Taboo Continent Sea region, she asked Yang Dingtian to help her ask if he entered the High Priest Association. After a long time, the woman spoke, and her voice was a little different. She asked, Who asked you to ask? Yang Dingtian. A friend of mine, Little Western Paradise's Wu Yu, the current master of the Sea of Hades. Suddenly, the woman's breathing became a little hurried, and she fell into silence again. After a long time, she said, Wu Yu, how is she now? Yang Dingtian immediately understood when he heard this. The woman in front of him was Little Western Paradise's legendary number one beauty, Wu Yu's mother. She did not die, and she had entered the High Priest Association. Yang Dingtian could even figure out the cause and effect in an instant. First, she must have really fallen in love with that Silent Tribe. Otherwise, she, as the dignified speaker, would not have done such a thing. But after that Silent Tribe member committed suicide, she must have been in incomparable pain, and she must have felt that she had committed a heinous crime by seducing a noble Silent Tribe member. And this Silent Tribe member was previously a member of the High Priest Association, and his life's ideals were almost completely dedicated to wisdom. Now, he was dead. That dedication had been cut off, so she felt the need to inherit her lover's career, and also to make up for her sins. So, when her daughter Wu Yu grew up a little, she chose to fake her death, and then entered the High Priest Association to live a destitute life without any desires. However, the woman in front of him was covered by a gray coarse robe. Not only was her face hidden, but the curves of her body were also completely covered. It was impossible to tell that this was Little Western Paradise's number one beauty. Yang Dingtian immediately bowed deeply and said, Yang Dingtian greets Senior Neru. High Priest Association's Neru greets Mr. Yang Dingtian. The woman lifted the cloak on her head. Her peerlessly beautiful face and smooth jade-like head were revealed. She had cut off all her hair. Chapter 952. When Yang Dingtian saw Neru, the former number one beauty of Little Western Paradise, he felt like he was looking at a painting. It was just that he felt a sense of unreality. Of course, it wasn't that she was unreal. In fact, Yang Dingtian had seen all the top beauties in this world. Tanthai and Naga Shuang should be the top beauties in this world. Neru in front of him, in terms of pure beauty, was indeed more beautiful than Jia. She should be on the same level as Wu Yu, Queen Devil Queen. However, because she had cultivated for so long, her whole face really gave people a very unreal feeling. Even this kind of beauty already had a hazy and dreamy feeling. Of course, this kind of hazy and dreamy also made this kind of beauty incomparably attractive, but it was completely impossible to profane. Although all her hair had been cut off, it made her face look even more holy. Why didn't Wu Yu come with you? Neru asked. Yang Dingtian. We were worried that Little Western Paradise would set a trap for us in the Skull Hall, so we didn't pass through Little Western Paradise. Instead, we tore space to enter Mount Buzhou. But because of special reasons, only I can pass through the torn space to enter Mount Buzhou. Neru thought for a while and then asked. Space technique, right? If Yang Dingtian was a complete stranger, she definitely wouldn't ask like this. But since Yang Dingtian was her daughter's friend, and they seemed to be close, she spoke a little more casually. Yang Dingtian nodded. Neru's eyes showed surprise. You actually obtained the space technique. In the records, only the ancient Mr. Shuwu Piaoyan had studied the greater space technique. In fact, when I heard that you came through the torn space, although we didn't have any desires, the surprise and shock in my heart can't be described with words. Yang Dingtian. My greater space technique also came from Mr. Shuwu Piaoyan. He was my teacher. Neru's eyes lit up. Mr. Nihility is your teacher? That's right, Yang Dingtian said. In fact, all of my cultivation was taught by his remnant consciousness. The only martial skill I've ever practiced was the only scroll he wrote after spending hundreds of years of his life. Neru said, You may not know this, but one of the spiritual teachers of our High Priest Association is the ancient Mr. Shuwu Piaoyan. When he was wandering in the ancient Little Western Paradise, he left behind many works, which are still the direction of our research. Yang Dingtian was pleasantly surprised. Then, may I ask if my identity will help me borrow the Naga royalty demon nuclei? Neru's beautiful face immediately revealed an awkward expression. Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, with your identity, we will treat you as one of us. From now on, the doors of the High Priest Association will always be open for you. Furthermore, if you have any theoretical problems, you can always ask us for help. But you also know that we are a group of people who have no desires. Although your identity will make us feel close to you, it can't make us change the rules. Yang Dingtian. Senior Neru, now I want to borrow the Naga royalty demon nuclei. What is the most important part? Neru said, Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, the demon nuclei of the Naga royalty demon nuclei may be incomparably precious in your world. But in the High Priest Association, it is only a research object that is very precious. The reason why we don't give it to you is definitely not because we can't bear to part with it, but because of the rules that have been set. Yang Dingtian. Then is there no other way? Neru said, I have already said that if you want us to change our mind, all the members must vote. More than 80% of the members agree, then we can make this decision. However, this matter is not of utmost importance to us. It is completely impossible to interrupt the members' meditation because of this matter. Then Neru said, Wu Yu's father was once an important member of the High Priest Association. But because I tempted him, he felt that he had committed a big mistake. In the end, he committed suicide to make up for his sins. Then, I went to the High Priest Association and asked the High Priest Association to execute me, or let me enter the association and inherit his will. This was the same as what Yang Dingtian had imagined. Neru said, However, such an important matter did not have the qualifications to awaken the meditating high priest for a vote. I waited for dozens of years. Only then did I get the majority of the members' approval to enter the High Priest Association during the awakening meeting of the High Priest Association. Hearing this, Yang Dingtian understood the seriousness of the matter. Everyone was different from each other. To you, it might be a big matter, but to others, it was insignificant. And to some people, meditation was like sleeping, a complete waste of time. But to the members of the High Priest Association, it was a big matter, more important than their lives. Wu Yu's father was the most important member of the High Priest Association. In the end, he died and was unable to awaken the meditating High Priest. Then, Yang Dingtian coming to borrow the Naga royalty's demon nucleus was completely insignificant, and it was even more impossible to awaken the meditating High Priests. Neru said, If you are willing to wait, about 39 years later, all of the High Priests would awaken from their meditation and then have a regular exchange meeting. I think with your status, you can definitely participate in this meeting. 39 years? If Yang Dingtian did not find the Naga Shuang, the human countries would have been destroyed countless times in 39 years. Yang Dingtian said. In other words, awakening all the meditating high priests is actually more important than borrowing the Naga royalty's demon nucleus, right? Yes. Neru said. Yang Dingtian said. Then, is there any exception that can awaken the meditating high priests in advance? Nera said. An astonishing discovery, an epoch-making discovery, can directly break through the current research bottleneck of the High Priest Association. Also, there must be a very objective result to prove your discovery, Yang Dingtian said. The Great Space Technique, does it count? Nera was silent for a moment, then said, Although the Great Space Technique is not the main topic of our research, it is still ranked second. There is no doubt that its weight is completely sufficient. But if you want to awaken all the High Priests, it means that you will have to completely disclose the Great Space Technique. You will definitely not be willing, and I also do not recommend that you do so, because the current world cannot bear the consequences of the Great Space Technique being made public. Yang Dingtian nodded and said, Indeed, if you want me to hand over the Great Space Technique, I would rather the human countries lose the war. Because once the Great Space Technique is made public, it means the complete destruction of the chaotic world. At this moment, Yang Dingtian completely understood the nature of the High Priest Association. Although the martial arts level here was very, very high, their status was very low. This was a completely academic organization, and the only thing that could be brought out here was research results. Research results that were of sufficient weight. In the words of Earth, these research results could even surpass the level of a Nobel Prize. For example, Newton's 3 laws, or Einstein's theory of relativity. If Yang Dingtian could bring out shocking results of this level, it would undoubtedly be enough to awaken all the meditating high priests and interrupt their research. But could Yang Dingtian bring it out? The Great Space Technique was undoubtedly one, but he definitely could not bring it out. What could Yang Dingtian bring out for the rest? First, the introduction to the Dark Realm? Second, the introduction to the Dark Realm? Or the Death Continent, the introduction to the Dark World? And so on and so forth. These theories were all obtained by Yang Dingtian from the Hall of Skulls. As for the Hall of Skulls and the Forbidden Continent's illusory realm, the people of the High Priest Association were 10,000 times more knowledgeable than Yang Dingtian. In that case, what other things did Yang Dingtian possess that the Priest Association didn't know about? After thinking for a while, Yang Dingtian said, I found new Naga in a confined space. Before the ancient Great Nirvana, under the persuasion of Mr. Shuwu Piaoyan, the ancient Naga sacrificed all the Naga people to construct new Naga, changed their genes, and gave birth to a new generation of Naga. These Naga generations are weaker than the previous generation, and are on the verge of collapse. They are completely confined in an isolated space, and their research in the spiritual domain has completely reached a bottleneck. After hearing Yang Dingtian's words, Nera revealed a stunned expression, but she still shook her head regretfully and said, This is just a discovery, not an academic achievement. Yang Dingtian nodded. That's right, this was not an academic achievement. Then Yang Dingtian said, Then, does the relationship between the dark matter and the primeval Naga's eye count? You should know that the dark matter is constantly devouring the existing vitality of the continent, but the primeval Naga's eye can melt the dark matter. Nera revealed a shocked expression again, and then she shook her head regretfully and said, This is also a very great and important discovery, but it's still not enough. Although the dark matter is also a research direction of the High Priest Association, it can only be ranked after the top 5. Yang Dingtian was really at his wits' end. Facing the most intelligent group of people in the world, everything he knew was really not enough. For example, he could be said to be completely ahead of everyone in the exploration of the realm of gods. But in front of the High Priest Association, perhaps it was still not enough. Nera said, I can tell you a few research directions of our High Priest Association. You can use this to see if there are any results that are enough to move the High Priest Association. Yang Dingtian, please go ahead. Nera said, Our first research direction is the spiritual domain. Yang Dingtian thought for a moment. Although he knew that there was a Naga royalty that made a breakthrough in this area, it was not his own result, so he could not take it out. Nera said, Our second research direction is the Greater Space Technique. Regarding the Greater Space Technique, Yang Dingtian was the only person in the world who had results. Unfortunately, this thing was too important, more important than his life, and he could not let anyone know. Nera continued, Our third research direction is the origin of the Little Western Paradise's civilization and the need to continue it. Yang Dingtian was startled. This research topic sounded very vague and vague. Suddenly he could not help but ask, About the third research direction, is there anything more specific? Nera said, The most important one is whether the fox demon race can give birth to a demigod descendant. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but be startled. Could this be the main point of your research? It's actually in the top 3? Nera was stunned. Is this strange? This is related to our entire race. Whether it's the fox demon race or the speechless race, they all have the silver dragon bloodline. Yang Dingtian was puzzled. But has the fox demon race already given birth to a demigod descendant? Don't you know? Nera was shocked. What? Already given birth? When? Yang Dingtian was even more astonished as he said, It was born a few years ago. This is not a secret among the higher-ups of Little Western Paradise. Also, I remember that the High Priest Association went into a few years ago to ask for the Naga royalty demon core from Wuyu. There's such a thing? Nera said. No one told us. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian was completely sure that Little Western Paradise was isolated from the High Priest Association. Obviously, whether it was the Little Western Paradise Council or the 9 Great Tribes, they did not want the High Priest Association to know about this secret. Because if the High Priest Association knew about it, they might lose control. In that case, it was very likely that they would lose control of the entire incident, and even lose control of the demigod's descendant. This High Priest Association was truly isolated from the rest of the world. After being shocked for a long time, Nera asked, Then, which woman gave birth to the demigod descendant? Yang Dingtian. The Shadow Spear races Yarao and Jia? Nera said, It's actually those sisters? Is there something special about their bloodline? Immediately, Yang Dingtian spoke in an extremely awkward and strange tone. The silver dragon bloodline in their bodies isn't anything special. What's special is the child's father. He is the one who allowed the enchanting sisters to give birth to a demigod descendant. Nera was surprised. Who is that man? Yang Dingtian was very embarrassed. His face was a little red. He said in a low voice, It's me. You. Nera said in disbelief. It's actually you? Yang Dingtian nodded. Yes, it's me. Nera stared at Yang Dingtian's face for a long time. Then, she stepped forward and sniffed his body. She immediately felt a strong silver dragon bloodline aura. There was also a slightly throbbing aura. Then, she turned around and walked into a deep passage. Yang Dingtian immediately said, Senior Yu, Nera said, I'm going to wake up the high priests who are in meditation. According to the rules of the High Priest Association, if there's a breakthrough in the first 3 research topics, everyone can stop meditating and immediately enter the exchange meeting. Yang Dingtian was completely stunned. This also works. His body easily accomplished what he had not been able to do with his intellect after so much hard work. Using this method to conquer the High Priest Association, Yang Dingtian didn't know whether to rejoice or laugh bitterly. Chapter 953. 4 hours later, all the members of the High Priest Association stopped meditating and gathered in the cave hall. Yang Dingtian counted and found that there were a total of 39 people. This High Priest Association had been established for thousands of years. Apart from Wuyu's father, no other members had passed away. Until now, there were only 39 people left. It could be seen how difficult it was to enter. Moreover, it was different from what Yang Dingtian had imagined. He had thought that these high priests would be old and frail. But in fact, the majority of them didn't seem to be older than Yang Dingtian. Of course, there were also old and frail. However, most of them were wrapped in a dark gray robe. Not only was it impossible to tell their age, but it was also impossible to tell their gender. After their meditation was interrupted, these high priests didn't show much anger. Instead, their eyes were filled with excitement and anticipation. Since their meditation was interrupted, it meant that there was a huge breakthrough in at least one of the three major problems. Everyone sat on the stone chairs in the cave hall. They didn't even react to Yang Dingtian's presence in the hall. Some of them even nodded in greeting. After everyone was seated, one of the high priests removed his hood and revealed his face. This was the first time Yang Dingtian had seen a true member of the silent race. Their appearance was similar to when he was in the Little Western Paradise, but they seemed to be deeper and thinner. It was impossible to tell the silent tribe high priest's age from his face, but the depth of his gaze seemed to be longer than the entire Little Western Paradise. This person should be one of the leaders of the Great Priest Association. His gaze swept across everyone. When he passed by Yang Dingtian's face, he appeared to be slightly puzzled. It was as though he was puzzled that he had never seen this person before. However, he suspected that he had been meditating for too long and had forgotten. "Who is this brother? When did you join the association? I don't have any impression of you," the silent tribe member said. He wasn't asking a rhetorical question, nor was he mocking him. He was talking seriously. Yang Dingtian immediately stood up and said, "Greetings, elder. My name is Yang Dingtian." The silent tribe member thought for a while, as if he really couldn't remember anything. He nodded and said, "Greetings, Yang Dingtian. No matter when you joined the association or whether I've ever welcomed you, I'll welcome you again." "Welcome, welcome." Immediately, all the high priests nodded perfunctorily. Yang Dingtian was speechless. These people used all their brains in meditation. They really didn't know anything about the ways of the world. They didn't have the slightest suspicion towards Yang Dingtian sitting here. He was about to explain when the silent tribe leader said, "Which comrade woke us up? Oh, is it Madame Nera? Congratulations, you've made a breakthrough in the three major problems. May I ask, on which question did you make a breakthrough?" "Nera. The third question," the silent tribe said. "The origin and future of the Little Western Paradise's civilization? Although it's not as exciting as the spiritual domain and the greater space spell, it involves the entire Little Western Paradise's civilization. It's not bad. May I ask which aspect of the problem you solved?" "Nera. The birth of a demigod's descendant." As soon as this was said, all the high priests present trembled. This should be a question that had troubled the entire Little Western Paradise for thousands of years. It could be said that this question had appeared since the birth of the Little Western Paradise's civilization. This was because the races of the Little Western Paradise, whether it was the Fox Demon race or the Silent Tribe, were all created by the fallen Silver Dragon to create a new demigod race. If the Silent Tribe and the Fox Demon race couldn't produce a demigod's descendant, it meant that these two races had completely failed. It meant that these two races would end up like the other experimental races, swept away into the trash heap of history. Therefore, this matter wasn't very big in Yang Dingtian's eyes, but in the eyes of the Little Western Paradise's races, it was bigger than the sky. It even concerned the survival of the entire race and the meaning of their existence. In fact, when the three questions were arranged, they wanted to put this first. However, later on, someone pointed out that this was too narrow-minded and didn't look at the big picture. It was too limited to their own interests. Therefore, the spiritual domain and the greater space spell, these two grand macro problems, were placed in the first two, and the problem that concerned the survival of their own race was placed in the third, showing that the High Priest Association was selfless and far-reaching. At this moment, when they heard that they had a breakthrough in this most important question, they were naturally overjoyed. The leader of the Silent Tribe immediately said excitedly, "Your Excellency Neru, please tell us about your breakthrough." Nera said, "It's not my breakthrough. In fact, a few years ago, the Fox Demon race of the Little Western Paradise had successfully inoculated humans and produced a demigod's descendant. However, the Little Western Paradise's parliament deliberately hid this fact from us, even though we almost cut off all contact with the Little Western Paradise in recent years. However, a few years ago, We still sent people to Silver City, but regarding this matter, the Little Western Paradise's parliament never mentioned it. As soon as this was said, the high priest's expressions changed. What's up with their chairman? What are the 9 tribes trying to do? Suddenly, an older fox demon high priest said angrily, "Oh right, who is their chairman now?" "It should be a young fox demon called Yao Qi," another high priest said. Yang Ditian was really speechless. How much was this high priest association isolated from the outside world? Now, they didn't even know who was the chairman of the Little Western Paradise, and they didn't even know that Yao Qi was dead. Then, the leader of the silent tribe said, "Your Excellency Neru, may I ask what's going on? How did the Little Western Paradise produce a demigod's descendant?" Neru pointed at Yang Dingtian and said, "The ones who produced the demigod's descendant were Yao Rao and Jia, 2 young fox demon women from the Shadow Spear tribe. Of course, the reason why they produced the demigod's descendant had nothing to do with them. The real important thing is a human man called Yang Dingtian. His bloodline can combine with the fox demon race and produce a demigod's descendant. Then, where is this human man called Yang Dingtian?" the leader of the silent tribe asked. Yang Dingtian's jaw dropped. He was clearly here, and he had introduced himself just now. His name was Yang Dingtian. Were these people even listening to what he was saying? Nera pointed at him and said, "This is Yang Dingtian from the human countries." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, everyone looked at him. The leader of the silent tribe said, "Oh, so you're not a member of the association. You're the Great Cedar." Cedar, could this name be any worse? Suddenly, Yang Dingtian felt that everyone's eyes were burning as if they were hungry wolves that saw meat. This made him worried that he would be captured and dissected immediately. The silent tribe high priest said excitedly, "Mr. Yang Dingtian, are you the only human in the human countries? Because as far as we know, demon fox females have been inoculated in the human countries for thousands of years. We can't find a human that can make demon fox females go into estrus." Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "I think I am the only one. Because I am the only one who can make demon fox race and snakeman race go into estrus and give birth to demigod descendants." Suddenly, all the high priests' breathing became rough. Another demon fox tribe high priest asked, "Mr. Yang Dingtian, what do you think is the reason why you can make demon fox race give birth to demigod descendants?" Yang Dingtian thought for a moment and said, "I don't know. I used to think it was because of the darkness profound flame. But later on, Temple of Annihilation's Dongli also possessed the darkness profound flame. However, he was still unable to make Snakeman Empire's Queen High Xian go into estrus. Therefore, it is obvious that the darkness profound flame is not the reason. Therefore, I began to suspect that it might be related to my 9 yang profound veins." "You have 9 yang profound veins?" The silent tribe high priest's eyes lit up. Yang Dingtian nodded. 9 yang profound veins that only appears once in 1,000 years. Although this reason is not strict, it has a certain degree of persuasiveness. The silent tribe high priest said. Suddenly, one of the demon fox tribe high priests said, "Mr. Yang Dingtian, may I ask if you can demonstrate your ability in this aspect on the spot? So that we can have a deeper understanding and confirm this matter." Yang Dingtian is completely speechless. How can he perform this kind of thing? However, the eyes of the high priests present are actually deep in agreement. They are looking at Yang Dingtian with eyes filled with longing. This is a group of academic freaks. The silent tribe high priest asked, "Among us here, who is a woman? No matter if it is demon fox tribe or silent tribe, anyone is fine." Immediately, 3 hands were raised. One of them is Nera's hand. These 3 hands, when raised from such a coarse cloth robe, appeared especially abrupt. These robes were simple and crude, but the hands that stretched out were as slender as snow jade, graceful and moving. Yang Dingtian also noticed that Nera's hand is not the most beautiful one. There is another hand, it is as if it is completely carved out of white jade. It is slender and exquisite to the point that even the fingernails are like jade and are relatively sharp. Generally speaking, jade hands are just a description of a woman's hand. However, the pair of hands in front of him is really jade hands. Yang Dingtian has never seen such beautiful jade hands. The silent tribe high priest said. Then, those who are willing to be the test subjects, please continue to raise your hands. One hand was lowered. Of course, it is Nera's hand. Although she has no desires now, she has already vowed to be loyal to her late husband. The one on the left, if I remember correctly, you should be Lady Demon Fox. The silent tribe high priest said. May I ask if you are willing to be a volunteer? Yes, mister. An extremely soft female voice sounded. It is the owner of that jade hand. Then she lifted her hood and revealed her face. Yang Dingtian's pupils suddenly shrank. This is the first time Yang Dingtian has seen a woman who looks so much like a fox. Yes, it is a fox, not a fox spirit. As long as it is a woman who looks charming and can seduce people, she can be called a fox spirit. The face of this woman in front of him is like a fox's face. Her long and narrow eyes are not big, but one can remember it with a glance. It even has the power to hook one's soul. Her slender nose is not very high, and for a woman, it is a little long. However, it is exquisite to the extreme. Her delicate lips seem to be transparent, but it does not give people the feeling that there is no blood. Her face is actually a little long and a little sharp. Her whole face is really like a fox's. Therefore, in terms of beauty, she can't be compared to Neru. However, this face is completely unforgettable. In fact, Yang Dingtian only took a glance at her, and then his entire mind was filled with this face. He even pushed out Neru's unparalleled beautiful face. This woman from the Demon Fox clan really has a very, very special charm. Demon Fox is the name of a race, but the name of this woman in front of him is Demon Fox. After Yang Dingtian saw it, he is very sure that she can be called this name. Then, this Demon Fox walked in front of Yang Dingtian. The silent tribe leader said, Mr. Yang Dingtian, you can do anything to this Lady Demon Fox in front of you to show your unique ability. Please! The Demon Fox looked at Yang Dingtian. Chapter 954. Yang Dingtian said, The first stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship is called the pig-slaying swordsmanship. It's the #1 swordsmanship in the world. In fact, the name of the pig-slaying swordsmanship came from the first stage. Fire Dance nodded and said, What about the second stage? Yang Dingtian said, The second stage is called the yin-yang heaven and earth sword. In fact, the second stage is already slightly out of the category of martial skills, but it's still within the understanding of the current martial arts civilization. After explaining the second stage, Yang Dingtian continued. The third stage is called the yin-yang qi transformation technique. It can completely transform any attribute of xian qi energy into pure xian qi energy. This is already somewhat beyond the scope of the current martial arts. The fourth stage is called the yin-yang heaven and earth art. It's already started to reverse the yin and yang attributes and create the primal chaos attribute. Then what about the fifth stage? Fire Dance asked. Yang Dingtian said, The fifth stage is called the greater space art. When these words came out, Fire Dance's face trembled slightly. In fact, the expressions of the people from the High Priest Association changed. One had to know that this was the second most difficult problem of the High Priest Association. It was even a problem of the entire world. Once this problem was solved, it would bring about a subversive change in the world. Of course, it was very likely to be a bad subversion. After hearing Yang Dingtian explain the first 5 stages of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, all the high priests present fell silent and looked at Yang Dingtian with disbelief. There really was someone in this world who could practice the pig-slaying swordsmanship. When Yang Dingtian finished speaking, everyone knew that it was true. In fact, the true content of the pig-slaying swordsmanship could only be known after entering the world of the scroll. None of the people in the High Priest Association had entered the world of the scroll, so they didn't know the specific content of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. However, when they studied Xu Wupiaoyan's other works, they could roughly figure out the research direction of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. So after hearing Yang Dingtian's words, they immediately confirmed that he was telling the truth. He really had learned the 5th stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, and was the true successor of Xu Wupiaoyan. Fire Dance turned to look at the wordless high priest. Both sides exchanged glances. Then, the leader of the silent priests stepped forward and said, "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, I formally invite you to join the Little Western Paradise High Priest Association. Are you willing?" Instantly, many high priests looked at Yang Dingtian with fervent gazes. The silent tribe high priest said, "We've always been arrogant, thinking that we're at the forefront of the entire chaos world in terms of thinking, wisdom, and martial arts. But in fact, we are just picking up the wisdom of our predecessors, especially Xu Wupiaoyan. The works he left behind have always been the direction of our research. But that was it. We were never able to penetrate deeply into his wisdom. Therefore, we are very eager for Mr. Yang Dingtian to join us." Yang Dingtian remained silent for a moment before replying. "Of course, I am honored to receive your invitation. I would like to ask if the High Priest Association is going to draw a clear line with the outside world and not have any entanglements with the outside world." The silent tribe high priest said, "That's natural. Only in this way can we go deeper and further in the cultivation of wisdom. If we're tied down by the outside world, we won't be able to go far in the cultivation of wisdom. This is a very serious matter." Yang Dingtian said, "Then I'm very sorry. I really have too many things that I haven't done." The silent tribe high priest said, "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, in fact, no matter how big the business outside is, it's still nothing. The cultivation of wisdom is the eternal value." Yang Dingtian said, "I agree, but this junior is already deeply involved and can't extricate himself." The silent tribe high priest sighed. "Then we need to talk in private." Yang Dingtian immediately recalled the story of Yongxi. At that time, Yongxi was also very ambitious. He wanted the fox demon race to become the new overlord of the world, an existence as powerful as the demigod Naga race. Later on, the silent tribe high priest conversed with him for a day and night, and it seemed to have completely changed his mind. The silent tribe high priest's method was very simple. They pulled Yongxi into an illusion and satisfied all his desires. In the illusion, they made him the #1 person in the world, a god. However, he was the only person in the world, and he couldn't even die. The silent tribe high priest came in front of Yang Dingtian and said, "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, what is your dream? What kind of powerful person do you want to be?" As expected, this was a very familiar feeling. Yang Dingtian said, "My dream is to save this world, so that I can no longer be tied down by this world and live freely with my family." The silent tribe high priest was stunned, and then he asked, "Then, what kind of powerful person do you want to be?" Yang Dingtian said, "Enough for me to protect this world. When I accomplish this goal, it doesn't matter whether I have martial arts or not." The silent tribe high priest was stunned again, and then he sighed. "Don't you want to conquer someone? Defeat someone?" Yang Dingtian said, "In fact, I have conquered many people, but it was when my cultivation was far inferior to theirs. I have also defeated many people when my cultivation was also inferior to theirs." Although this sentence is very empty, I still want to say that justice is my weapon. The silent tribe high priest was silent for a moment, and then he said, "Your Excellency, I can't extradite you because in your heart, your career and dream are as great as ours." Yang Dingtian bowed and paid his respects. At this time, a fox demon high priest said, "Actually, it's good that he doesn't join the High Priest Association. I think it's more important for him to be in charge of nurturing the descendants of the demigod." Yang Dingtian frowned and said, "Masters, don't you hate Naga's behavior? Are you willing to let the fox demon race walk the same path as Naga?" The silent tribe high priest said, "Of course not, we don't agree with the Little Western Paradise's so-called great cause." Yang Dingtian said, "Then why do you still want the descendants of the demigod?" The silent tribe high priest said, "We have to understand the problem first before we can solve it. We are trying to find the future of Little Western Paradise in the descendants of the demigod. If you have enough wisdom, you will realize that the fox demon race is an abnormal race. If this continues, the destruction of this civilization is only a matter of time. Yang Dingtian said, I think the descendants of the demigod will not solve the problem, but will worsen it. The silent tribe high priest nodded and said, You are right. If the demigod descendants of the fox demon race walk the same path as Naga, it will mean destruction. Yang Dingtian said, Then why do you still need the descendants of the demigod? The silent tribe high priest said, Our high priest association's research in certain fields has reached a dead end. We can't stop the apocalypse, so we hope that the wisdom of the demigod descendants can help us break through the bottleneck of our research. Whether it's the silent tribe or the fox demon race, I think our brain is limited. The demigod race will surpass us in terms of wisdom and understanding of energy. Then, the silent tribe high priest said, Of course, humans can't do it. Of course, humans have wisdom, but the limitations of their lifespans make it impossible for humans to make breakthroughs in this field. Yang Dingtian immediately fell into silence and agreed with what they said. There was a ready-made example of the Naga royalty that had completely broken through the bottleneck of the spiritual realm. Sir Yang Dingtian, I respect you for taking it upon yourself to save the world, and we share the same goal. The leader of the silent race said, But our salvation might not be as limited as yours. We don't want to defeat anyone. Whether it's the evil Tao or anyone else, we don't care. What we want to save is the entire world itself, the life of the primal chaos world. Do you understand? He definitely won't understand. A high priest next to him said, Although he practiced the pig-slaying swordsmanship, his understanding of this world is still too shallow. However, Yang Dingtian nodded and said, I completely understand this point, and I completely agree with this point. If we don't stop it, even if there is no war, the entire chaotic world will be destroyed. Because the third dark realm is not far from death, and the second dark realm is also on the verge of collapse. The torn space will soon evolve into the first dark realm, and without the balance of the torn space, the energy environment of the Little Western Paradise will completely collapse, and it will evolve into the second torn space. And this is not the greatest danger. The greatest danger is that the current human countries, which is the only living continent, are gradually being invaded by dark matter. As soon as this was said, everyone present was shocked. This was definitely the top secret of this world. The entire High Priest Association had studied it for a long time before coming to this conclusion. Now Yang Dingtian said it so easily and clearly. After a long time, the silent tribe high priest said, Sir Yang Dingtian, you were not sent here by Madame Nehru. You came here on your own? Yang Dingtian nodded and said, That is indeed the case. Nehru said, Sir Yang Dingtian came through the torn space in order to avoid the pursuit of the Little Western Paradise. As soon as this was said, everyone present was completely shocked. It was clear what this meant. This meant that Yang Dingtian had grasped the greater space technique. This was a supreme realm that was second only to the law of spiritual energy. In front of them, such a young Yang Dingtian had actually broken through. The silent tribe high priest said seriously, Sir Yang Dingtian, why have you come to the High Priest Association? Yang Dingtian bowed and said, I need a Naga royalty demon core. It is in the High Priest Association, so I am here to ask the association to lend me the Naga royalty demon core. The speechless clan's priest leader said directly, The Naga clan's demon core? Oh, there is such a thing. If you want to borrow it, of course, there is no problem. You can take it any time. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian was in disbelief. This happiness came too suddenly. Of course, as long as you join the High Priest Association, you can use everything in the association for research. The silent tribe high priest said. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian was surprised. Then, he said bitterly, You should know that I can't do that. I haven't finished my business outside, so it is impossible for me to join the High Priest Association. Suddenly, Fire Dance said, Then there is another way. You can leave behind a demigod descendant for us. You can have a child with me or with Demon Fox. This way, our association can give you the Naga royalty demon core. As soon as this was said, the silent tribe high priest frowned slightly. Although Fire Dance's suggestion was very sudden, he did not deny it. Instead, he added, "Of course, this decision has to be passed through a show of hands. If 80% of the people agree, it can be passed." Fire Dance said, "Don't worry, they will definitely raise their hands." Fire Dance's words were full of shrewdness and determination. Yang Dingtian didn't have the slightest doubt about this. When he came, he really did not expect things to turn out this way. It had developed to the point of selling his body in exchange for the Naga royalty demon core. Moreover, this transaction did not seem like Yang Dingtian had lost out. Instead, it seemed like he had gained a huge advantage. There was no need to mention Fire Dance. She was a dazzling beauty. As for the Demon Fox, she was filled with an incomparably unique charm. Therefore, this was a wonderful thing. Not only did he get the Naga royalty demon core, but he also enjoyed a great beauty. Chapter 955. Yang Dingtian's heart was beating like thunder. He even knew that Fire Dance was deliberately helping him. In fact, her proposal surprised the entire Little Western Paradise's High Priest Association, although it was somewhat reasonable. This time, Yang Dingtian thought for a full 15 minutes because this decision was too important to him. One was for the Doomsday Battle, and the other was for his bloodline. In the end, Yang Dingtian shook his head. Seeing him shake his head, Fire Dance, Fox Demon, Neru, and everyone else present were shocked. Why did he reject such a wonderful offer? Fire Dance even said with a hint of mockery, "Sir Yang Dingtian, is this the way of a gentleman? Or is it because you don't want to let your wife down?" Yang Dingtian shook his head and said, "I'm far from being that noble. To be able to have a good time with Lady Demonic Fox is like a dream to me. Moreover, it's for the Naga royalty demon core. I won't refuse at all." "But—" "Please speak," Fire Dance said. Yang Dingtian said, "Obviously, after Lady Demonic Fox and I give birth to a demigod descendant, we will definitely stay in the High Priest Association for you to raise, right?" Fire Dance said, "Of course." Yang Dingtian said, "Although I'm often not by your side, I still want my child to grow up by my side." Fire Dance said, "Do you think it's better for him to be by your side than in the High Priest Association?" Yang Dingtian said, "Of course. For a child, no place in the world can compare to being by his parents' side." Fire Dance said, "If you and Demonic Fox mate, then Demonic Fox will be the child's mother. Are you worried about the child following his mother?" Yang Dingtian said, "You are a group of noble and selfless people, but as the child's parents, you have to be selfish. Therefore, I think Lady Demonic Fox can't be a good mother. Also, fundamentally speaking, I don't want my child to be a test subject." As soon as these words came out, everyone fell into silence. Yang Dingtian's attitude showed that he was not going to cooperate in the breeding of demigods. He couldn't even conceive a demigod's descendant with the demonic fox, much less borrow it from someone else. "Yang Dingtian," one of the fox priests said, "you're willing to have demigod descendants with women from the Little Western Paradise, and 2 of them at that. Why are you making all sorts of excuses when it comes to the High Priest Society? Do you think we're too easy to talk to?" Yang Dingtian: "That's right, I have 2 children with Yarao and Jia. But they are both my wives now, and there is no doubt that these 2 children will grow up at my knee." At this moment, the leader of the silent tribe spoke. "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, you said that your lifelong career is to save the world. Searching for the demon core of the Naga royalty is also to save the world, right?" Yang Dingtian: "Yes, Your Excellency. I'm asking for the demon core of the Naga royalty for the upcoming war of the human kingdom. Another high priest of the fox tribe. Isn't that ironic? You're willing to sacrifice anything to save the world, but the current conditions don't even count as a sacrifice. Why don't you agree? Is your great cause of saving the world so limited and fake?" Yang Dingtian: If I can't even protect my family and loved ones, then how can I save the world? If I have to sacrifice my children to save the world, then I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm far from that noble and selfless. As soon as these words came out, everyone fell into silence. Even though they had already forgotten and couldn't understand the feelings they had for their family, Yang Dingtian's words still touched them. After a long time, someone said, "Mr. Yang Dingtian, perhaps you've closed the door to negotiation." Yang Dingtian's expression suddenly became a little bitter, and he said, "Then may I ask, what else can I offer in exchange?" Fire Dance said, "You're not willing to agree to the two things we want. In fact, there's another thing we want more, but because we know you won't agree, we didn't even mention it. The other thing was, of course, the greater space technique. Yang Dingtian naturally couldn't give it to them. The High Priest Association didn't mention it, which made Yang Dingtian very respectful and grateful. Yang Dingtian, elders, what if I say that the demon core of the Naga royalty is related to a breakthrough in the spiritual realm?" As soon as this was said, everyone was shocked. The speechless High Priest said, "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, are you saying that the demon core of the Naga royalty will be used for research in the spiritual realm? Obviously, that won't change our mind, because we're not optimistic about your research at all. In fact, we're not optimistic about the research of any force other than us." This sentence was very arrogant. Yang Dingtian, in fact, there's already a breakthrough in the spiritual realm. No, impossible. Suddenly, everyone exclaimed. Then, the speechless High Priest said, "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, you might not know what this breakthrough in the spiritual realm means. It will completely subvert the civilization of the entire world, and completely prevent the destruction of the chaotic world. Yang Dingtian, the breakthrough I'm talking about is the transformation of the information energy in the spiritual realm into an offensive energy that can destroy the world." As soon as this was said, the whole place was dead silent. Yes, there were many aspects to a breakthrough in the spiritual realm. However, the qualitative change of the spiritual energy was undoubtedly the most important one. This is really impossible," the speechless High Priest said. "Yang Dingtian, once, in the Netherworld Sea, I briefly came into contact with the demon core of the Naga royalty. Before Wu Yu took it back, the spiritual energy of the Naga royalty in the demon core had entered my brain and temporarily stayed there. At that time, the spiritual energy of the Naga royalty didn't interact with me at all. Later on, it entered my soul sword. Not long ago, I obtained an extremely powerful Xian vein essence and implanted it into my soul sword. Furthermore, I temporarily used the demon core of the Millennium Mao as the sea of Qi of the soul sword. Thus, I cultivated a temporary sword soul. If it was any other time, hearing Yang Dingtian's long narration, all the high priests would be impatient. Because to the high priests, if they couldn't get to the point in 3 sentences, they would be angry and lose all their patience. Yang Dingtian continued, "Not long ago, I was imprisoned by the Temple of Annihilation of the Evil Ways. The Demon King Wentian wanted to possess my body. At the crucial moment, a Naga Dugu Shuang rushed out from my spatial ring and destroyed Wentian's attempt to possess my body. It devoured the primordial evil spirit in his body and completed its transformation. After that, it killed countless darkness dragons and darkness wyverns in an attempt to escape from the empire of darkness that was enveloped by the darkness domain. However, the entire empire of darkness was surrounded by dark matter, and it was impossible for her to escape. The empire of darkness sent out tens of thousands of darkness dragons and darkness wyverns to launch a suicidal attack on her in order to capture her. Seeing that the Naga Dugu Shuang was unable to escape and its energy was about to be exhausted, it let out a sorrowful cry. The spiritual energy of the Naga royalty in my soul sword instantly resonated, and controlled the soul sword to fly to the Naga Dugu Shuang's side. It directly slashed out a shocking sword soul and destroyed the tens of thousands of darkness dragons, saving the Naga Dugu Shuang." After hearing Yang Dingtian's narration, everyone fell into silence. Everyone present was an intelligent person and there was no need for Yang Dingtian to explain anything. Everyone immediately realized that regardless of whether it was Yang Dingtian's brain or his sea of qi, it was very difficult for them to contain such a powerful energy. There was only one explanation. The Naga royalty used spiritual energy to transform it into offensive energy. That's right, the Naga royalty had been researching for tens of thousands of years and finally made a breakthrough in the spiritual domain, completing a qualitative change in spiritual energy. Yang Dingtian continued. Currently, I still have no connection with the spiritual energy of the Naga royalty. Hence, I want the demon core of the Naga royalty. I want to see if I can provide it with energy and awaken the connection with it. Instantly, everyone fell into silence. Yang Dingtian had given them a huge problem. That's right, this was indeed a breakthrough in the spiritual domain, and a huge one at that. Hence, the High Priest Association's Naga royalty demon core could be given or not. The High Priest Association's agreement was written very clearly. The association could not allow anything to enter the outside world unless it could be exchanged for something that was extremely important, and involved the three major problems. Otherwise, this thing could provide substantial help to other forces in the research of the three major problems. Hence, Yang Dingtian happened to be at this vague stage. Letting Yang Dingtian obtain the demon core of the Naga royalty would indeed help in his breakthrough in the spiritual domain. However, there was no doubt that Yang Dingtian wanted the demon core of the Naga royalty not for the research of the spiritual domain, but to win the doomsday battle. The leader of the speechless race was silent for a long time before saying, "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, we may need to vote." Yang Dingtian said, "Thank you, Master. Do you need me to leave?" The leader of the speechless race said, "No need." Fire Dance looked at everyone present. Some met her gaze, while others avoided it. In fact, this was equivalent to expressing their stance. However, most of the people avoided her gaze. Therefore, if a vote was held, Yang Dingtian would not be able to obtain the demon core of the Naga royalty. Just as the vote was about to begin, Fire Dance suddenly said, "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, please follow me." After saying that, she walked directly into a stone room. Yang Dingtian followed. After walking for about a few hundred meters, Yang Dingtian entered a stone room. This should be Fire Dance's room. It was completely different from the other simple stone rooms. This was comfortable, pink, and even a little extravagant. Fire Dance did not seem to completely reject worldly pleasures. "Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, you should know that if a vote is held, it will definitely not pass," Fire Dance said. Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "I know, and I'm very grateful for Miss Fire Dance's care for me." "I like you very much," Fire Dance said, "but you can't be too biased, understand?" Yang Dingtian bowed and said, "Yes." Fire Dance said, "Therefore, you need to make a certain sacrifice in exchange for the demon core of the Naga royalty." After saying that, she took off her coarse robe, revealing a peerlessly attractive body. The entire room was suddenly enveloped by a delicate fragrance. After a short period of contact, in Yang Dingtian's mind, this Fire Dance already possessed extraordinary charm. She was definitely a woman that men liked. Not only did her beauty and body make men crazy, but her character also made men like her from the bottom of their hearts. Yang Dingtian suddenly felt that his throat was blocked. His heart was beating like thunder as he hurriedly gasped for breath and said, "Miss Fire Dance, you are incomparably attractive to me. But I'm very sorry, if I agree, it would be irresponsible of me." Fire Dance turned around and smiled at Yang Dingtian. "Do you think I'm forcing you to have sex with me and give birth to a demigod descendant? Didn't you already refuse? Do you think I'll force myself on you? Could it be, could it not be?" Yang Dingtian said in his heart. Fire Dance took out a gorgeous robe from the box and put it on. "What are you thinking? I just want to change into a great arbiter's robe." Sure enough, this robe was black and red, full of majesty. When Fire Dance wore it, her beauty was like a burning flame. Fire Dance said, "If you want to get a vote, you need to make a certain sacrifice. You need to sign a contract. After you save the world, you need to send your soul sword to the High Priest Association for us to study in the spiritual domain. Do you agree?" Yang Dingtian was stunned, and his face immediately turned red. he said with incomparable gratitude. Yes, of course I agree. He knew that with Fire Dance's persistence and help, he had obtained the demon core of the Naga royalty. Chapter 956. Seeing Yang Dingtian's straightforward reply, Fire Dance couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Then she said, You should know that this contract is very serious. If you don't fulfill it when the time comes, the consequences will be very serious. Moreover, we will study it for a very long time. You might not be able to get back your soul sword for the rest of your life. Yang Dingtian. I've said it before. After I complete everything, I don't care even if my cultivation completely disappears. Because I've completed everything I want to do. Apart from defeating enemies, I don't need to rely on martial arts or cultivation for the rest of the matters. Fire Dance looked at Yang Dingtian for a while before saying, I like your attitude towards martial arts very much. Therefore, I won't waste my time on martial arts. In any case, I won't leave the High Priest Association for the rest of my life. Martial arts cultivation is useless here. Fire Dance put on the robes of the High Priest Association. She held a piece of energy-soft jade paper and a crystal pen in her hand as she walked back to the hall. After returning to the hall, she spread the soft jade paper on the stone she was sitting on and squatted there to write the contract. Seeing such a great beauty wearing such a gorgeous robe and squatting there to write something, Yang Dingtian immediately felt that this place was a scam. There wasn't even a decent table. Very quickly, Fire Dance finished writing the contract. Then, she handed the crystal pen to Yang Dingtian and said, Sign it. Yang Dingtian took it and immediately saw the contract Fire Dance had written. The content was very simple. The High Priest Association would first lend the demon core of the Naga royalty to Yang Dingtian. In exchange, after Yang Dingtian finished saving the world, the soul sword had to be sent to the High Priest Association for research. Of course, regardless of whether Yang Dingtian finished saving the world or not, the soul sword had to be sent to the High Priest Association within 30 years. As for the Grand Priest Association's research on the soul swords, there was no fixed time limit. Of course, what was slightly surprising was that Fire Dance's handwriting wasn't that outstanding. At the very least, it was much worse than Jia's. However, his words were full of boldness and dominance. Even though she had tried her best to write seriously, it still leaned towards cursive. She needed to work hard to recognize every word. The first party of the contract was blank. Party B was, of course, Yang Dingtian. Infusing profound qi, he signed Yang Dingtian's name on it. Suddenly, the three red Yang Dingtian imprinted themselves on the soft jade white paper. Inside, the Yang Dingtian's unique Xian Qi energy danced. After Yang Dingtian signed the contract, Fire Dance picked it up and read it out loud in front of everyone. His meaning was very clear. Today, he lent out the Naga royalty demon core, and in the future, not only would he return the Naga royalty demon core, but he would also lend the entire soul sword to the association for research. Right now, the left side of the contract is blank. We need to vote before we can sign the name of the Grand Priest Association, Fire Dance said. So, whether we lend the Naga royalty demon core or not is up to everyone present. When she said this, Fire Dance stared at everyone with a burning gaze. This time, there were quite a few people who avoided her gaze. However, Fire Dance continued to stare at them and didn't look away. Therefore, these people could only meet Fire Dance's gaze helplessly. In the end, after confirming that more than 80% of the people looked at Fire Dance, she said to the Silent Tribe's chief priest, You announced the vote. The Silent Tribe's chief priest was a little helpless and said, All right, we agreed to lend the Naga royalty demon core to Yang Dingtian. In exchange, Yang Dingtian must lend the entire soul sword to the Grand Priest Association for research within 30 years. Please raise your hand. The vote went without any accidents. Everyone who met Fire Dance's gaze agreed to the vote. A total of 33 people raised their hands and agreed to lend the Naga royalty demon core to Yang Dingtian. More than 80% of them agreed. Yes, this result was indeed a little underhanded, but Yang Dingtian felt a sense of warmth in his heart. After all the votes were over, the Grand Priest Association didn't delay at all. The Silent Tribe's chief priest went to the warehouse and took out the Naga Royalty Demon Core and gave it to Yang Dingtian. At this time, Yang Dingtian held it in his hand and felt a sense of heaviness. Then, he bowed deeply to everyone and said, "Thank you, elders." Fire Dance waved her hand and said, "All right, there's nothing else. Everyone disperse. Those who are meditating, continue meditating." This was completely the rhythm of throwing away after using it. All the grand priests present got up and returned to their stone rooms. Some of them looked at Yang Dingtian a few times before they left. Obviously, Yang Dingtian's greater space technique and his ability to let the Fox tribe give birth to demigod descendants really filled them with endless curiosity. However, Yang Dingtian also noticed that some of the male priests secretly looked at Fire Dance a few times before they returned to their stone rooms. Of course, they looked very timidly and carefully. The feeling was no different from a junior high school boy on Earth secretly looking at a girl he had a crush on. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian understood that the Grand Priest Association wasn't completely without desires. Sure enough, there were still people who had a crush on Fire Dance, and there was more than one. In fact, the 3 women in the Grand Priest Association were very seductive and beautiful. Especially Neru, who was the #1 beauty in Little Western Paradise. But in this place, her radiance was completely overshadowed by Fire Dance. Fire Dance was the most dazzling person here. Yang Dingtian originally thought that Neru would stay until the end to bid farewell to him, but she smiled at him and returned to her stone room. The fox demon looked at Yang Dingtian for a while, then waved at him and said, "Mr. Yang Dingtian, goodbye." In the end, only Fire Dance and Yang Dingtian were left in the stone room. Fire Dance had no intention of leaving. Yang Dingtian immediately said, "Senior Fire Dance, do you have any other instructions?" The gorgeous Fire Dance lazily sat on the ground, stretched her waist, and leaned against the stone seat, making the curves of her upper body even more unparalleled. "You can say that I have a personal matter," Fire Dance said. Yang Dingtian said, "Please speak." Fire Dance said, "Don't sit so upright. Come over and help me massage my shoulders. I used too much strength in the fight just now, and now I feel a little sore all over." Yang Dingtian immediately stepped forward and massaged her shoulders and arms. Even though Fire Dance's skin was as smooth as snow, soft and bouncy to the touch, Yang Dingtian still focused on massaging her. "You should have noticed Neru. What do you think of her in the High Priest Association?" Fire Dance asked. "She seems a little estranged, a little out of place," Yang Dingtian said. Yang Dingtian immediately recalled Neru's words. She was actually an outsider. After observing her for 2 to 4 hours, Yang Dingtian found that she was indeed an outsider in the High Priest Association. The leader of the Silent Tribe was still polite and gentle to her, but the other high priests were very cold to her. Fire Dance, on the other hand, was always protecting her. "That's right, she is out of place," Fire Dance said. "She came to the High Priest Association not for learning, but to atone for her sins. A few hundred years ago, she proposed that she could either enter the association and inherit her husband's legacy or die. You should be able to see that our leader is a very gentle person. Of course, he couldn't bear to see her die, so he proposed a vote. But you should know that these high priests aren't people who have tender feelings for the fairer sex. I don't need to say it, but you can imagine their rejection of outsiders. If they had immediately voted, the consequences would have been very bad. Once Neru was rejected, she would have only one path, death. So, I propose to pause the vote and talk to the high priests one by one." At this point, Yang Dingtian suddenly thought of Fire Dance fighting a group of high priests, beating them until they were wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. Obviously, the conversation back then was similar. In short, when they voted again, although the situation didn't look good, the decision was passed and Neru stayed. Fire Dance said, "But in my heart, I didn't want her to enter the High Priest Association, but I didn't want her to die even more." Yang Dingtian nodded. Fire Dance said, "In fact, she's like a prisoner here. She can't meditate or do any research. There's only endless loneliness and pain. In order to express her will, she even cut her hair. Those who truly want to cultivate don't need to do this. Penance and beauty are not in conflict with each other, are they?" Yang Dingtian took a glance at Howu's gorgeous face and immediately nodded his head vigorously. Fire Dance continued, "This time, when you came to Mount Buzhou to visit the High Priest Association, no one saw you because everyone was meditating. Only Nara noticed you because she wasn't meditating. She was enduring endless loneliness." Yang Dingtian nodded. Fire Dance said, "So, there's no need for her to stay in the High Priest Association. This will only add to her pain, but I can't say it myself. That would make her feel like she's been expelled. So, I'd like to trouble you to persuade her to leave the High Priest Association and live the life she should live. She shouldn't spend her time in the High Priest Association to atone for her sins." Then Fire Dance said, "We're completely willing to cultivate day after day, but each day feels like a year to her. So, both of us feel very uncomfortable." Yang Dingtian said, "I understand. Don't worry, I'll tell her." Fire Dance said, "I heard a little about your situation just now. I roughly know that you're facing a difficult situation. Nera's cultivation is very powerful, and her prestige in the Little Western Paradise is very high. So take her with you. She'll be very useful to you, especially as your trump card in the Little Western Paradise." After saying that, Fire Dance got up and stretched her body. She was about to return to her stone room. Yang Dingtian said, "Senior Fire Dance, no matter if it succeeds or fails, do you need me to report it to you?" "No need," Fire Dance said. "I just want her to be better. No matter what the result is, you don't need to tell me." Then Fire Dance waved her hand and said to Yang Dingtian, "I hope to see you again. But the next time I wake up from meditation, you might be old." Then she disappeared into Yang Dingtian's business. Yang Dingtian looked at her back view, and his heart continued to surge. She was really a strange woman. Shrewish, beautiful, decisive, independent, fair, and righteous. Next, Yang Dingtian thought about how to complete Fire Dance's task. Yang Dingtian also felt that Nera's staying here wasn't a good thing. Not only was she unable to do any substantial research, but she was also suffering every day. So, she also enjoyed the feeling of suffering, the feeling of self-punishment. However, persuading Nera would be a very, very difficult thing. In fact, the thing that could shake her the most was that she had been possessed and had become a tool for the evil ways to control Little Western Paradise. After all, she used to be the chairman of Little Western Paradise, and she used to be her disciple. However, after Yang Dingtian said that she had been possessed by Wentian, Nera didn't have much of a reaction. She didn't care about it very much. So, it would be very difficult to persuade Nera. He had to find a reason to kill her directly. After thinking for a while, Yang Dingtian walked towards Nera's stone room. Nera's stone room was extremely simple. There wasn't even a sitting stone. The bald and beautiful Nera sat cross-legged on the ground with her eyes closed. She didn't enter any meditation. When she saw Yang Dingtian enter, she opened her beautiful eyes and said, "You can leave on your own. There's no need to say goodbye to me." Yang Dingtian, "I'm not here to say goodbye to you. I'm here to take you away from the High Priest Association." When he said this, Nera's delicate body trembled. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.